divine and mysterious immortality. I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 526 Practice, Satisfaction. Underground Palace, Training Room. Wei Hong looked delighted as he sorted and put away the pile of supplies in front of him. Then he opened several other storage bags one after another and poured out all the contents. This time he did not get too big a surprise, but it was a small gain. All the spiritual stones added up to more than 1,200 pieces, which was not a large number. In addition, the first level medium high quality spiritual rice and monster meat added up to more than 100 kilograms. Together with what Wei Hong bought before, even if he ate 3 meals a day, it would be enough to support him for more than 2 months. He also harvested more than 10 first-level high-quality monster skins, and more than 200 talisman skins. In this way, he should be able to draw a large number of evil-killing talismans during his retreat, and he does not need to worry about talisman skins for drawing talismans for the time being. All the materials are very well prepared. The rest were some worthless chores. Wei Hong collected the ones that could be used, and put the ones that could not be used or had no value into a specific storage bag, waiting to be processed later. Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief, secretly delighted. With this batch of supplies, even if the whole market outside becomes purgatory, it has nothing to do with me. I will stay in this underground palace and not go out. Anyway, no matter where he is, he will practice or draw talismans. Since this underground palace is so quiet and no one disturbs him, and there is no shortage of daily necessities, why should he care about what is happening outside? Gurgle. At this time, Wei Hong's stomach happened to rumble. He touched his stomach and immediately stood up. Haha, eating is important, eat first and then practice. Since there is no shortage of spiritual rice and monster meat, he naturally does not need to save anything. Coming to the specially open kitchen, Wei Hong directly took a big pot, took out a pound of high-quality spiritual rice and poured it in, then walked to a large bronze cauldron next to it and directly performed 2 water prison spells. Hualala. Clean water fell directly into the cauldron, which was his daily water. He scooped a spoonful of water from the cauldron and put it into the pot, washed the spirit rice, added some water and put it on the rack. Then, he took out more than a pound of monster meat, cut it into tofu-sized pieces and put them all into the pot. After preparation, Wei Hong pointed his finger, and a flame suddenly rose under the iron rack, licking the bottom of the pot fiercely, and the temperature in the pot also rose. After a while, the water in the pot began to boil, and the crystal-clear spirit rice began to slowly turn white and exude a rich fragrance. The monster meat pieces on the spirit rice began to change color slowly under the high-temperature steaming, and secreted a lot of oil, which dripped into the spirit rice below. The mixture was a very rich rice and meat aroma, which made Wei Hong salivate. After boiling for a while, he took out a long-handled copper spoon and began to stir slowly, so that the monster meat and the spiritual rice were thoroughly mixed together. The fat made the white rice also mixed with a touch of yellow, which looked even more delicious. Wei Hong stirred from time to time, making the fragrance from the pot more and more intense. The smell of this fragrance made Wei Hong couldn't help but shrug his nose, and a touch of enjoyment appeared on his face. At this time, he began to take out several white jade bottles containing various seasonings. He first sprinkled a little salt into the pot, and then gradually added a little of several special seasonings in the market. Then he stirred quickly, and the fragrance became more fragrant and tempting. After a while, Wei Hong waved his hand to extinguish the flame. Then he took out a large bowl the size of a human head, and was not afraid of the heat. He directly used a copper spoon to scoop all the fragrant rice in the pot into the large bowl, filling the large bowl to the brim, and the rice was almost an inch higher than the edge of the bowl. Picking up the bowl of rice mixed with monster meat, Wei Hong walked to the table next to him and sat down and began to eat heartily. One mouthful after another, the food tasted extremely sweet. Well, not bad, not bad. The first-grade spiritual rice and monster meat are so delicious, I don't have to live frugally anymore. Wei Hong said happily while eating with big mouthfuls. In fact, this cooking method is relatively simple. Wei Hong was hungry and in a hurry, so he didn't cook it carefully, but this did not affect the taste of the spiritual rice and monster meat. Wei Hong, who was eating heartily, seemed extremely satisfied. He was able to have enough food and drink in such a situation, and he could also have a safe place to live. Such conditions were simply beyond most people in the market. Why fight to the death? Isn't it better to eat well and practice? Wei Hong chewed the rice and muttered from time to time. If his words were heard by people outside, they would probably want to chop him into 18 pieces. Who doesn't want to live like this, and who wants to stay in that dangerous market where they could die at any time? If they could choose, who wouldn't want to have a safe place like the underground palace? But what about the reality? The reality is that the surviving monks on the ground are in dire straits. They have to be careful not to be robbed or attacked during the day, and defend against strange attacks at night. If they don't have the means to deal with strange things, they will die in 9 out of 10 cases. And the forces they join have to go out for a fight from time to time, and they may die every time. Even so, they still can't find much supplies, and the spiritual rice and monster meat they can get are pitiful, and they can only barely fill their stomachs. Even many monks still live in places without any protection, and they may encounter strange things at any time at night. Such days are like purgatory. In contrast, Wei Hong's current life is like heaven. It's just an occasional sigh, and he quickly finished a big bowl of rice without thinking too much. Those people outside, whether they live or die, have nothing to do with him. He just wants to live his life well. After filling his stomach, he took a rest for a while, thought about the next arrangements and plans, and then stood up and walked towards the practice room. After arriving in the practice room, he sat cross-legged on the golden cushion. Wei Hong took out a bottle of key-enhancing pills from the storage bag, opened it, and gently poured out a pill the size of a longan. Then he opened his mouth, put the pill into his mouth, raised his head and swallowed it. The pill melted in his mouth, and instantly turned into a warm current that began to flow to the danshan. Wei Hong did not dare to neglect it, and hurriedly closed his eyes, put his hands on his knees, and the spiritual power in his body began to run rapidly under his control. After being busy for many days, Wei Hong finally entered the state of practice again. Chapter 527 An Unexpected Surprise. The Talisman Drawing Room. The Talisman Drawing Room in this underground palace is naturally not comparable to the Talisman Drawing Room in the Talisman Workshop. It only has a wooden table less than 10 feet long and a chair. On the wooden table are tools such as talisman skins, talisman pens and spiritual ink, which looks extremely simple. However, such a simple talisman drawing environment has become a quiet place that many people dream of but cannot get. At this time, Wei Hong walked in leisurely from the outside, came behind the wooden table, gently pulled out the chair and stood up, and then slowly ground the spiritual ink, and then picked up a talisman skin and spread it on the wooden table in front of him. He picked up the talisman pen with his right hand, gently dipped the tip of the pen into the spiritual ink, and then stood the tip of the pen vertically on the talisman skin, but the full spiritual ink on the tip of the pen did not show any signs of dripping. Wei Hong's right hand holding the pen paused for a breath, and then quickly put down the pen. After putting down the pen, the talisman pen in his hand was like a swimming dragon, riding on the talisman skin like a dragon, riding like clouds and water, and the tip of the pen did not pause at all, giving a sense of neatness that was done in one go. At the same time, the spiritual power in his body was slowly injected into the talisman skin. However, as time went by, especially when it came to the last few strokes, Wei Hong's speed slowed down involuntarily, but his right hand holding the pen remained stable. After half an incense stick, Wei Hong slowly stopped the talisman pen in his hand. When he put the talisman pen back into the pen holder, the talisman on the wooden table immediately bloomed with a faint light. Then, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth began to surge. With the talisman on the wooden table as the center, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the talisman painting room continued to infuse into the talisman, making the light emitted by the talisman more and more intense, and there was also a vast and positive aura. If there were any evil spirits nearby, they would definitely be scared and flee immediately. After 10 breaths, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth slowly subsided. Well, not bad. Seeing that this evil-killing talisman was successfully drawn, Wei Hong just nodded calmly. He was already familiar with drawing the evil-killing talisman, and his success rate was over 50%. Therefore, such things were completely easy for him and could not cause any reaction from him. It was like eating and drinking in his daily life. He picked up the evil-killing talisman without even looking at it, and then laid another talisman skin on it. After practicing, he would draw talismans. Now he needed to draw a large number of evil-killing talismans, and when the time was right, he would go out to trade for various good things he had long been eyeing. Therefore, drawing talismans became one of his daily homework. In addition, the more than 20 monster skins had all been made into first-class high-quality talisman skins by him. However, due to the improvement of the quality of the talisman skins and the different sizes of each monster skin, his current rate of making first-class high-quality talisman skins was basically around 60 to 80. The smaller monster skins could be made into 60 pieces, and the larger ones could be made into 80 pieces. All in all, the more than 20 monster skins were made into talisman skins, totaling about 1,800 pieces. Add to that the talisman skins looted from the spoils, and there are 2,000 in total. According to his current success rate in drawing the evil-killing talisman, this batch of talisman skins can bring him at least thousands of evil-killing talismans. In this way, he can basically get most of the good things in the black market. This is a huge profit. It is also the best method Wei Hong can think of, allowing him to harvest all kinds of good things while leaving behind a large number of evil-killing talismans. This is simply killing two birds with one stone, and Wei Hong is also very motivated for this. While he was working hard to draw the talisman, he secretly released his mind, thinking about the various possible situations that might be encountered next, and how to use the evil-killing talisman to trade various materials. Half a month passed in a flash. On this day, Wei Hong was stewing monster meat in the kitchen. In the copper pot on the stove, thick white-hot steam was coming out at this time. Even with the lid on, there was still a strong and tempting fragrance emanating. Wei Hong stood in front of the stove with a long-handled copper spoon in his hand. After waiting for a while, he reached out and picked up the lid and put it aside. After the lid was removed, the rich aroma immediately hit the face, which really made people hungry and salivate. The fire below kept licking the bottom of the pot, causing large bubbles to constantly appear in the pot, and large pieces of monster meat were constantly rolling in it. Both the appearance and color were extremely tempting. Wei Hong then put the long-handled copper spoon in his hand directly into the pot and began to stir slowly. He didn't need to taste it, just smell the aroma to know whether the monster meat was cooked enough, whether it tasted right, and what seasonings needed to be added, etc., all of which were already known in his mind. After all kinds of cooking in the past half-month, Wei Hong's cooking skills have skyrocketed. Although his cooking skills have never been taken seriously by him, and he has not put any vitality into it, after so many years of practice, he has already reached the great success level before, and he is only one step away from being promoted to perfection. After this period of continuous practice of cooking monster meat and boiling spiritual rice, his cooking skills have made great progress, and he is only one step away from entering the extreme level. In this way, Wei Hong's cooking skills of monster meat dishes have naturally improved greatly. He slowly stirred the monster meat in the pot, and then took out a seasoning and poured some into the pot, and then continued to stir. He repeated this process over and over again, stirring continuously. After half an hour, Wei Hong slowly stopped his actions. During this period, he had added 5 or 6 kinds of seasonings to the pot, making the already rich aroma even more tempting. If someone smelled this smell for the first time, they might desperately grab the pot of monster meat and feast on it. Wei Hong extinguished the flame directly, and waited for another 30 breaths before waving the copper spoon and scooping all the monster meat in the pot into a large plate. At this time, Wei Hong suddenly paused. It was because the system prompt suddenly rang in his mind. Ling. Cooking skill proficiency plus 58, current proficiency is the limit, 1200/1200, oh, your cooking skills have reached the limit. Wei Hong didn't expect the surprise to come so suddenly. But after thinking about it carefully, after continuous cooking practice during this period of time, his cooking skills were not low to begin with, so it's not surprising that he has reached the limit now. Haha, good, this is also a pleasant surprise. Wei Hong couldn't help but feel very happy for a while. Although the cooking skills have no effect on his combat power, being able to reach the limit is enough for him to enjoy some delicacies that he can't usually eat in his life, which makes Wei Hong feel quite happy. Chapter 528 The Idea of Building a Foundation. Great! Wei Hong smiled in admiration. He picked up the dish that had just been cooked and placed it on the table next to him. He then pulled open a stool and sat down directly. There was already a large bowl of fragrant spiritual rice on the table. Let's try it first. Wei Hong smiled and picked up a piece of monster meat and put it directly into his mouth without paying attention to the heat. He naturally had high expectations for the cooking skills at the extreme level, so he was also very curious about what this dish of monster meat that had just been cooked would taste like and how it would be different from the previous ones. The monster meat was fat and lean, and it had already been stewed until it was well cooked. After Wei Hong put it into his mouth, he just bit it lightly, and the monster meat was immediately bitten into pieces. An indescribable deliciousness burst out in his taste buds, and for a moment, his eyes widened slightly. The chewing action of his mouth also subconsciously accelerated, as if he had eaten something extremely delicious. Before the meat in his mouth was swallowed, Wei Hong quickly picked up another piece and put it into his mouth. After chewing it twice, he suddenly picked up the bowl of spiritual rice and took a big bite. His mouth was full of oil, but he was extremely satisfied. After a while, after swallowing all the food in his mouth, Wei Hong let out a long sigh of satisfaction. It smells so good, it's worthy of the cooking skills of the extreme realm. The dishes cooked are delicious. Not only are they delicious, but they are also full of spiritual energy. Wei Hong found that although this plate of monster meat was stewed well, because of the material, the monster meat was still very chewy and delicious. The most important thing is that this plate of monster meat is different from the past. Not only is it delicious, it looks extremely tempting, but it is also full of spiritual energy. It can be said to be perfect and nourishing. Faced with such delicious food, Wei Hong naturally ate it without hesitation. In less than half an instant stick of time, a large plate of monster meat and a large bowl of spiritual rice were all eaten by him. Putting down the bowl, Wei Hong burped for a long time. He said softly with unusual satisfaction, "The spiritual energy is abundant, delicious and nourishing. This plate of monster meat is comparable to the first-grade inferior elixir." The dishes cooked by the cooking skills of the extreme realm are indeed extraordinary, which makes Wei Hong feel more and more surprised. If he eats such delicious dishes 3 times a day, he can not only fill his stomach, but also enjoy the ultimate taste buds. It can even add a little help to his cultivation, because the spiritual energy contained in the monster meat has been completely stimulated, and the effect is remarkable. Haha, it's really good. Eating such delicacies 3 times a day, plus elixirs, the speed of cultivation may be increased a little more, haha. Wei Hong couldn't help laughing when he thought of such a wonderful life. Compared with those who are in dire straits outside, Wei Hong's life is indeed a good one. This is also something that many people dare not even think about now, but he really enjoys it. Now he has a safe place to live, with plenty of spiritual rice and monster meat every day, and elixirs to help him practice, and no strange threats. Wei Hong even thinks it's okay to live like this forever, and it would be best if he could maintain it until he builds his foundation. However, when he thought about building his foundation, Wei Hong slowly stopped smiling, and a look of worry appeared on his face, as if his interest was suddenly disturbed. Alice, building a foundation, how to build a foundation. When Wei Hong thought of building a foundation, he sighed in his heart. It is extremely difficult for ordinary casual cultivators to build a foundation. There are no ways and no resources. How can they build a foundation? Among casual cultivators, only 1 in 10,000 can build a foundation, and those who can build a foundation are all people with great opportunities or great luck. There is no such example to learn from. The most reliable way is to find a foundation building pill, so that you can build a foundation safely, but the foundation building pill is so rare that I may not be able to buy it even if my wealth increases 100 times. What's more, all the foundation building pills are controlled by the major sects. Ordinary casual cultivators have no way to buy them. This is not something that can be solved with money. Thinking of this, Wei Hong's heart became heavier. Building a foundation is a natural chasm that he must cross. Crossing it means that the road ahead is temporarily flat. The road to immortal cultivation has been opened for him, and his lifespan will increase to 200 years. If he can't cross it, then he will be no different from an ordinary person. When the deadline comes, he will return to dust and return to earth, and there will be no hope of immortality. Once the foundation is established, it also means that his status will be greatly improved. It can be said that the status of a cultivator in the foundation building stage is as different from that of a cultivator in the key training stage, which is why all cultivators will try their best to build a foundation. However, facing the hurdle of building a foundation, which is like a natural barrier, how many people can really cross it? Most of them have become dry bones in the tomb. Although Wei Hong is still at the 7th level of key training at this time, he has to consider the future foundation building. But he has no clue now, and there is no way out for the time being, and there is no resource in hand, so he can only sigh with disappointment. Forget it, it's useless to think too much, let's take it one step at a time. Wei Hong shook his head and suppressed the thoughts in his mind. At this time, he seemed to suddenly hear a subtle sound. What sound? Wei Hong's face changed slightly, and he immediately stood up quietly. He listened quietly for a while, and then fixed his eyes on the corner next to the kitchen stove. Wei Hong's eyes were not only filled with deep doubts, but also with a hint of cold murderous intent and fierceness. Because in that corner, there was a constant stream of subtle noises, as if someone was gently digging the soil under that corner, and was about to come out. How could Wei Hong not be extremely surprised by such a change? How could he not have murderous intent in his heart? He was even prepared. If someone came out of that corner at this time, no matter who it was, he would use thunder to kill him at the first time, and would never leave any trouble. At this time, Wei Hong had no time to think about why the location of his underground palace was exposed, and he didn't know what was being dug in from the outside. He gathered all his breath, and slowly approached the corner with light hands and feet, holding 3 talismans in his left hand and a flying sword in his right hand. If there was any mistake, he could immediately launch a thunder attack. As expected, the sound of digging soil from the corner wall became louder and louder. Soon, when Wei Hong just walked to the corner, the wall at the corner had been dug through, but the hole was not big, only the size of a bowl. Before Wei Hong could even see any doubt in his eyes, a slightly pointed head covered with white fluff appeared in front of his eyes. The next moment, a white mouse slightly larger than a fist came out of the hole. Chapter 529 Treasure Hunting Rat. Looking at this cute-looking mouse, Wei Hong couldn't help but have several question marks on his forehead. At this time, the white mouse also subconsciously raised its head and looked at Wei Hong above his head. When the 4 looked at each other, the man and the mouse looked at each other in bewilderment. Wei Hong frowned, and stopped in his tracks temporarily with a puzzled look on his face. The moment the white mouse saw Wei Hong, its body trembled, and then a trace of fear instantly appeared in its eyes. Its 2 small golden eyeballs rolled around uncontrollably, and it whimpered unconsciously from its mouth, obviously realizing that Wei Hong was not easy to mess with. At this time, Wei Hong looked at the white mouse and secretly marveled, "Tisk, is this a treasure hunting mouse? It's pure white, its eyes are light gold, and its nose is black. No, it must be wrong." Wei Hong recognized the origin of the mouse in front of him at a glance. This is clearly a rare treasure hunting mouse. The mouse was all white with no other colors, and its 2 eyeballs were also light gold. It also had a small nose with a black spot on the tip of the nose, which all met the characteristics of a treasure hunting mouse. The so-called treasure hunting mouse was actually a special kind of spiritual mouse that was artificially raised. It was very rare on the market. It seemed that the feeding conditions were relatively harsh, or this type of spiritual mouse was a family inheritance. Wei Hong also read the relevant classics and recognized it. The most important thing is that once this special spiritual mouse is sold, the price is extremely expensive, and ordinary people can't afford it at all. But now, such a treasure-hunting mouse appeared in front of Wei Hong. Wei Hong couldn't help but murmured in confusion, "Could it be that I was exposed here? Or did it find this place by accident?" Thinking of this, his eyes turned cold when he looked at the white treasure-hunting mouse. Because no matter what the reason was, since this treasure-hunting mouse found this place, in order to prevent his secret base from being exposed, he would not let this treasure-hunting mouse leave here. Squeak. As if sensing Wei Hong's malice and danger, the treasure-hunting mouse instantly screamed with its hair standing on end. Then its 4 short legs moved suddenly, and it wanted to turn around and get back into the passage. Unfortunately, how could Wei Hong give it this opportunity? Wei Hong did not make any moves, but before the treasure-hunting rat turned around, its entire body was pressed to the ground and it wailed. "Hey, you're here and you still want to run? How can it be that easy? Little guy, just stay here obediently." Wei Hong chuckled with evil taste, lowered his head and grabbed the soft hair on the back of the treasure-hunting rat's neck and lifted it up. While carefully looking at the treasure-hunting rat in his hand, he also made a sound of praise. However, the next moment, Wei Hong's face changed slightly. He took a big step back quickly with the treasure-hunting rat in his hand, and his right hand tightened the flying sword again. The whole person was full of vigor and stared at the direction of the tunnel where the treasure-hunting rat had just come out, as if an enemy was about to appear. Sure enough, something unexpected happened after 3 breaths. Puff. The tip of a flying sword pierced through the wall with a puff, then cut horizontally and vertically, repeatedly, and cut a half-zang-high square in front of Wei Hong. Seeing this scene, Wei Hong frowned, and his eyes were full of murderous intent, but he still held back and didn't take action immediately. Bang! The square wall that was cut out was pushed from behind, and it fell in front of Wei Hong with a bang. Then, under Wei Hong's murderous eyes, a petite female cultivator actually came out of the passage and came directly in front of Wei Hong. However, before Wei Hong could react, a scream that was about to tear the eardrums instantly resounded throughout the kitchen and the underground palace. Even Wei Hong was frightened by the sudden scream, and the flying sword in his hand almost chopped it out. Fortunately, he immediately realized what was happening, so he roared with an ugly face, "Shut up!" The scream stopped abruptly. The petite female cultivator looked up at Wei Hong, her face full of fear and terror, her eyes full of fear. She almost huddled up, looking like a cowardly mouse that could be frightened to death at any time. And after being yelled at by Wei Hong, she began to tremble all over, and her eyes became cautious when she looked at Wei Hong, as if she was afraid that Wei Hong would explode and kill people. When the scream stopped, Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief, and then first looked at the hole behind the female cultivator, and then carefully looked at the female cultivator in his eyes. This female cultivator was not only petite, but also had a face as small and delicate as a palm. She looked weak and frail, and seemed to be extremely timid. When she looked at Wei Hong, she didn't dare to look at him straight in the eye, but only dared to lower her head and glance at him quietly. Wei Hong couldn't help but be speechless. How could this person, who was so timid, survive to this day? And judging from her cultivation, she had reached the 6th level of key training. Seeing such a person appear in front of him, and being frightened by her scream, Wei Hong's previously accumulated killing intent was completely dissipated, and he no longer had the idea of killing this person immediately. However, just when Wei Hong was looking at a strange face, thinking about how to ask this person, the female cultivator who lowered her head and looked terrified suddenly saw the white treasure hunting red in Wei Hong's hand, and her eyes lit up. "Can you give Bai Ling back to me? It's my spiritual pet. Please, don't kill it. How many spiritual stones do you want? I will compensate you. Please." The female cultivator mustered up the courage to look up at Wei Hong, and then pleaded with Wei Hong pitifully. Moreover, her voice was very weak, and she spoke in a pause, so that Wei Hong almost didn't hear what she said clearly. It was obvious that she was frightened by Wei Hong's ferocious appearance just now. Wei Hong's brows relaxed slightly at this time. He raised a white treasure hunting mouse in his hand and asked, "Bai Ling? You mean this treasure hunting mouse? Is it the pet you feed? How do you prove it?" It is really the pet I feed. It can understand my orders. If you don't believe me, put it down and I will prove it to you." The female cultivator stammered and answered, and she looked like she was about to cry. However, Wei Hong had no intention of putting it down. Instead, he continued to ask, "Can it be proved that it is your pet if it can understand your orders?" Now it is in my hand. I tell it to crawl, and it absolutely dares not to walk. Does this also prove that it is my pet? And what if I put it down and it runs away? Are you responsible?" After that, Wei Hong looked at the female cultivator with a look full of evil fun. Chapter 530, Fight? Imprisonment? Wei Hong could see it. Regardless of the cultivation level of the female cultivator in front of him, her personality alone was definitely that of a coward. He would never be wrong about this, and this aspect of her personality was not something that could be faked. Wei Hong was very sure of this. He also saw that the treasure hunting rat was the pet of the female cultivator in front of him, because when the female cultivator appeared, the treasure hunting rat suddenly became very excited and struggled twice, but it could not break free from Wei Hong's restraint, so it calmed down. The reason why Wei Hong did not return the treasure hunting rat to her immediately was that he wanted to take the opportunity to squeeze out more things. When the female cultivator heard what Wei Hong said, she still whispered, "No, it's not like that. It's called Bai Ling. It's my pet that I've been raising since I was a child, and it's a female rat. As long as you can let it go, it will never run away while I'm here, and it will come back to me immediately. Please, give Bai Ling back to me." After she finished speaking, she glanced at Wei Hong cautiously. Wei Hong suddenly found it funny, so he raised his hand and threw the white treasure hunting rat directly to the female cultivator, and then laughed. Okay, I'll give it back to you, as if I'm going to steal your spiritual pet. No, 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 that's not the case. The female cultivator didn't expect Wei Hong to return the treasure hunting rat to her so straightforwardly, so she took the treasure hunting rat in a hurry and explained weakly, "It's just that Bai Ling has been dependent on me since she was a child, otherwise it would be fine to give it to Taoist friend." "Give it to me? No need, you should keep it for yourself." Wei Hong waved his hand casually. The reason why he returned the treasure hunting rat to the female cultivator in front of him so straightforwardly was mainly because he could feel that this person was not a threat to him, and the whole person was timid and cowardly, not like a cultivator at all, so he simply returned the treasure hunting rat to her. Originally, he had some ideas about this special spirit rat, but when he thought that it was someone else's since childhood, and the owner was right in front of him, it would be embarrassing for him to snatch it, so he gave up this idea. Thank you, fellow Taoist, I am grateful." After getting the treasure hunting rat back, the female cultivator was immediately grateful. And after the treasure hunting rat named Bai Ling returned to the female cultivator, it seemed to finally no longer be afraid, and climbed onto her shoulder in a flash, looking at Wei Hong with two small golden eyes full of curiosity. "No need to be grateful." Wei Hong waved his hand at this time, and then asked with a serious face, "How did you find this place? Who pointed it out? Or where did you know about this place? You can find this place accurately." He just glanced behind the female cultivator and found that the female cultivator in front of him did the tunnel herself, so Wei Hong was very curious, how did she know his location, and how did she find it so accurately? If the location of his underground palace has been leaked, then the situation will be serious. If there is another reason, then it is easy to explain. Thinking of this, Wei Hong's eyes once again showed a hint of murderous intent. If this person can't answer, then he will definitely destroy the flower without hesitation. Because his residence must not be exposed, and his secret base must not be known to any outsider. The female cultivator seemed to be sensitive to the danger in Wei Hong's tone, so she stopped stuttering and immediately explained in a low voice, "Dao, you misunderstood. The reason we can find this place is actually all thanks to Bai Ling." As she said that, she pointed to the treasure hunting rat on her shoulder, and then continued, "Bai Ling has been raised by me since he was a child. It was only when he grew up that I discovered that Bai Ling has a special and strange talent. It is a treasure hunting rat. It is born with the ability to find all kinds of treasures and has an extremely sensitive sense of smell. However, Bai Ling can not only hunt for treasures, but also has an extremely keen sense of various dangers. It can always find a trace of life in the dark. This has been verified by me many times. It is a strange talent that Bai Ling is born with. It is precisely because Bai Ling has this strange talent that it can find Dao here. The fact that Bai Ling can find this place means that Dao is safer here, so it dug a hole all the way to find it, and I followed it and dug a tunnel all the way to find Dao here. I hope Dao will not blame me. By the way, I am Dingzhu, may I know the name of this Dao?" At this moment, the female cultivator Dingzhu couldn't understand that this place was clearly the underground palace where the cultivator lived. Although she only took a quick look, she could see that a huge underground cave had been dug out here, which was simply the safe place she had always dreamed of. Moreover, she could vaguely smell an extremely strong and tempting meat aroma, which made her swallow secretly. Dingzhu was just timid, but not stupid. She had already seen that the treasure hunting mouse Bai Ling had definitely not found the wrong location. This time, its talent was still accurate and found a very safe place for her. Now that the outside world was in chaos, people were dying every day, and biological materials were extremely scarce and expensive. She could no longer protect herself, so she wanted to rely on Bai Ling to find a way out. Who would have thought that Bai Ling actually found a way out? Who would have thought that there was such a place similar to a cave dozens of meters underground, and it seemed that there was nothing missing here. But now this place belongs to the cultivator in front of her, and this person seems to be very powerful, and his cultivation is one level higher than hers. She is no match for him at all. If she wants to settle down here, it is absolutely impossible without the consent of the cultivator in front of her. Therefore, Dingzhu answered all the questions asked by Wei Hong, and said everything she could and couldn't say, without any intention of hiding anything. She had already made up her mind. After getting Dingzhu's explanation, Wei Hong looked at the treasure hunting rat on her shoulder with even more surprise. Wei Hong didn't expect that this treasure hunting rat that looked a little cute in front of him actually had such a strange talent. No wonder it could find this place, which also solved his doubts. Fortunately, he didn't mean to covet it. He turned his head to look at Lingzhu and said lightly, "I am Wei Hong, fellow Taoisting, this is my private cave. Now that the misunderstanding has been resolved, please leave now." Since the location of the underground palace was not leaked, Wei Hong was relieved. Moreover, he was now showing his true face, so he simply gave his real name. As for how to deal with Lingzhu, he couldn't make up his mind for a while. Killing her or keeping her alive seemed inappropriate. Chapter 531 The Method of Building the Foundation. Although he said he wanted Lingzhu to leave, Wei Hong was still thinking about whether to silence her. If he didn't, Lingzhu might expose his secrets after she left, and then bring him countless troubles, which Wei Hong absolutely could not tolerate. But silencing her was against Wei Hong's heart. Lingzhu had no grudges against him, and she was not a threat to him. He was a little reluctant to kill her. However, just when Wei Hong was hesitant, Lingzhu said weakly, "Wei, do you think I can live here? Live here?" Wei Hong was still hesitating whether to silence her, but he was stunned when he heard it. He hadn't made up his mind yet, but Lingzhu came to him directly, which made him feel a little amused. "Yes, yes." Lingzhu hurriedly forced out a pitiful smile, and then explained in a low voice, "It's too dangerous outside. People die every day, and I don't have much living supplies. If I stay outside, I may be killed by other monks in no time. I think it seems that Brother Wei's place is very safe. People outside can't find this place at all, so Brother Wei, can you let me live here?" Fearing that Wei Hong would refuse, Lingzhu immediately added, "Of course, it's definitely not for free. I am willing to pay rent. Just think of it as renting a place here. I don't know if it's okay? Brother Wei, how much rent do you need? Just tell me." After that, Lingzhu looked at Wei Hong with a little hopeful look. "Stay here? This?" Wei Hong frowned at first, and then a trace of entanglement and hesitation appeared on his face. He was also thinking quickly about the feasibility of this matter in his heart, to see if Lingzhu could stay. To be honest, Wei Hong had no idea about keeping Lingzhu. He was only thinking about how to keep his secret. But Lingzhu took the initiative to ask to stay and live, which suddenly gave Wei Hong a different idea. He didn't want to kill her, but he also wanted to keep his secret, so leaving Lingzhu here seemed to suit his wishes and seemed to be the most appropriate solution. As long as Lingzhu didn't go out, the location of his underground palace would not be exposed. And Lingzhu was timid and posed no threat, which made Wei Hong feel relieved. Even if while this was Lingzhu's disguise, Wei Hong was confident that he would not fall for her. There were formations everywhere in the underground palace for protection, and he was not afraid even if Lingzhu was a master at the peak of key training. Therefore, various thoughts flashed through his mind at a rapid speed. "Fellow Taoisting, isn't it a bit inappropriate for you to stay here?" Wei Hong had already accepted Lingzhu's request in his heart, but on the surface he still seemed very embarrassed. Seeing this, Lingzhu was immediately delighted, because she knew that there was a chance if she didn't refuse directly, so she immediately pleaded again, "Wei, rest assured, I am not a threat to you, I just want a place to stay, I have no other ideas, I hope you will be merciful and save me, I will be grateful. So, I am willing to rent a room at the price of 200 spirit stones per month. Do you think it's okay?" Lingzhu was very smart and directly quoted the rent price. Because she knew very well that Wei Hong didn't refuse directly, he was waiting for the price. And she had to seize this opportunity to survive, so she was decisive in offering the price. But Wei Hong shook his head slightly and said, "Outing, this is not the same as before. 200 spirit stones may seem like a lot, but you can't buy anything outside. Now a pound of high-quality spirit rice in the black market can be bought for at least 30 spirit stones. Your 200 spirit stones." Wei Hong's meaning was very clear, your 200 spirit stones were not a high price at all, but not worth mentioning. If there was no other rent, there would be no need to say more. Lingzhu's face turned pale. She had been staying in the courtyard without going out. She didn't expect that spirit stones were no longer hard currency, but the least valuable currency. In this way, 200 spirit stones a month did not seem to be very good. However, she was also very smart. Seeing that spirit stones could not impress Wei Hong, she immediately took out a stack of talismans and a few jade slips and said, "Since spirit stones are not enough, I still have more than 20 first-class fire dragon talismans and ice spear talismans. In addition, these are 3 first-class magic inheritances. Consider them as my rent. Fellow Taoist Wei, Do you think it's okay? Oh? What kind of magic? Wei Hong asked with a hint of interest in his eyes. It's the wood thunder spell, the gold sword spell and the storm spell. Dingzu answered immediately. What a pity. I don't lack talismans and spells. When Wei Hong heard that it was these 3 spells, he immediately lost interest and shook his head to refuse. Fellow Taoisting, since it has come to this, I am not afraid to tell you the truth. If I let you stay, I will not only take more risks, but also be responsible for the materials you need for your daily life. Some secrets may even be exposed. So if you don't have something that can move me, I will never agree to let you stay. Seeing Dingzu's sincerity in order to stay, Wei Hong no longer played dumb with her, but told her his idea honestly, and then let her think about it herself. His meaning was also very simple, that is, Dingzu's sincerity was not enough, and she had to increase it until she could move him. After hearing what Wei Hong said, Dingzu's eyes suddenly turned red, and she looked as if she was about to cry, which made her look even more weak and pitiful. However, Wei Hong didn't buy her tricks at all, and just stared at her expressionlessly. After a long while, Dingzu seemed to be struggling with her thoughts. She knew that this was probably the only place where she could survive, and Wei Hong didn't look mean, so she seemed to have made some important decision. Dao I Wei. Dingzu bit her lip, looked up at Wei Hong, and asked with a trembling voice, if I am willing to give you a set of foundation building methods, would you be willing to protect me? This time, Dingzu didn't ask for a place to live, but asked Wei Hong to provide her with shelter. Obviously, she thought that the value of what she brought out was very extraordinary, and even so valuable that Wei Hong's protection was needed to offset its value. What? You have a foundation building method? As expected, after hearing Dingzu's words, Wei Hong's face suddenly changed and he screamed. At this moment, his gaze towards Dingzu became much more serious. At the same time, there was a strong sense of doubt in his eyes, as if he couldn't believe that Dingzu, a cultivator at the 6th level of key training, would have such a valuable thing. Chapter 532, 1 in a Million. The method of building a foundation. The method of building a foundation that Wei Hong had been thinking about before appeared in front of him without any sign. Although he didn't know whether it was true or not, the 4 words "the method of building a foundation" were enough to make him excited. There was no other reason. It was really hard to find a method of building a foundation. Speaking of building a foundation, here we have to talk about the common sense about building a foundation in the world of cultivating immortals. The so-called building a foundation is to build the cornerstone of cultivation. It means to lay a good foundation and condense your own foundation. Because the key training realm is only the entry stage in the cultivation system of the entire world of cultivating immortals. The foundation building period is the first stage after entry, and it is also the most important stage in the cultivation system. The foundation laid in the foundation building period will directly affect the subsequent potential and the chance of promotion. Therefore, the foundation is also called the foundation of Taoism, which means the cornerstone of the immortal way. Compared with the 2 people with the same talent, if the foundation of Taoism laid by a cultivator is very solid, then it will be much easier for this cultivator to improve his cultivation or break through the realm in the future. If the foundation of another cultivator is not solid during the foundation building period, even if he advances quickly in the future, his cultivation may collapse at any time due to the unstable foundation, and it is even a luxury to be promoted to the golden core stage. Therefore, the importance of the foundation is self-evident. There are 2 common ways for cultivators in the key training stage in the world of immortal cultivation to break through to the foundation building period. The first is to take the foundation building pill, match it with natural materials and treasures to break through, and then build the foundation. The second is that if there is no foundation building pill, you can also use the side door foundation building method to build the foundation. Everyone in the world of immortal cultivation knows that the foundation is also divided into 3, 6, and 9 grades, including 9 types of upper 3 grades, middle 3 grades, and lower 3 grades. The gap between the upper, middle, and lower grades is very large. If you want to build a perfect superior foundation, you must use the foundation building pill with natural materials and treasures to achieve it. Of course, the probability of building an upper 3 grades is not high. Most people build a middle 3 grade foundation, which is the common foundation in the world of immortal cultivation. The Dao foundation built by using the side door foundation building method is basically a lower 3rd grade Dao foundation. Generally speaking, The potential of cultivators with this kind of Dao foundation is very low, and their achievements will not be very high. It is basically impossible for them to break through to the golden core stage. Generally speaking, only those with a Dao foundation of the middle third grade or above can truly have a slight chance of being promoted to the golden core stage. This is all common sense, and Wei Hong also read it from some miscellaneous books. Therefore, Wei Hong asked immediately before Dingzhu answered, "Is it a side door foundation building method?" "Yes, it is indeed a side door foundation building method." Dingzhu bit her lip and nodded, saying, "This is the foundation building method passed down from my ancestors. This foundation building method allows people to mix their own blood and flesh essence with natural materials and treasures to build a foundation, and can build a lower third grade Dao foundation." Dingzhu did not dare to hide it. After all, this method can be seen at a glance, and the foundation built by using the side door foundation building method must be a lower third grade Dao foundation. This is something everyone knows, and she dare not say it casually. Side door foundation building method. Although Wei Hong was tempted, his face was still a little tangled. At this time, Dingzhu said weakly, "Dao Wei, this foundation building method is inherited from our ancestors and is very precious. If you agree, I can promise to pass it on to you, but you must promise that I will not pass it on to others. Moreover, after I pass on the foundation building method to you, I can live here as long as I want. Not only must you protect me, but you must also be responsible for my daily needs of spiritual rice and monster meat. Do you think it's okay?" After saying that, Dingzhu stared at Wei Hong with a nervous face. In fact, this is the greatest sincerity she can show, and it is also the most precious thing she has. If Wei Hong still disagrees, then she has no other choice. Wei Hong thought about it carefully, and finally nodded and agreed, "Okay, then I agree, so be it." To be honest, is a foundation building method precious or not? Wei Hong can answer responsibly that it is extremely precious. Whether this foundation building method was before or now, as long as it was sold or auctioned on the black market, it would definitely be snatched by a large number of casual cultivators, and it would be the kind of snatch that would bankrupt their families. It is because building a foundation is too difficult, and there is often only 1 in 10,000. However, once the foundation is built, even if it is only the lower third grade foundation, it is still a foundation building cultivator, and its status is completely different from that of a key training cultivator. Therefore, even if there is a glimmer of hope, even if it is just a side door foundation building method, it will be snatched by a large number of casual cultivators. But for Wei Hong, this foundation building method is not really that precious in his hands. He wants to take the path of immortality. If he is asked to build a foundation with this foundation building method, it is absolutely impossible, and he will not choose it. In this way, this set of methods is better than nothing. Of course, Wei Hong also knew Dingzhu's sincerity in taking out this set of foundation building methods, so he was relieved. For him, it is not much of a difference to say that it is just one more person to eat. Besides, it is good to have someone to talk to when he lives here with Dingzhu. When Dingzhu heard that Wei Hong agreed, she was surprised and smiled. "Really, Brother Wei, you agreed?" That's great, I finally don't have to worry every day." Obviously, the chaotic situation outside has left Dingzhu with a great psychological shadow. At this point, she breathed a sigh of relief, and the whole person relaxed, and even stopped being vigilant and alert to Wei Hong. Seeing this, Wei Hong couldn't help but laugh and said, "Why is it so?" "Well, let's talk first." Before, he had been talking with Dingzhu in the same place, that is, in the corner. Now that they have reached an agreement, there is no need to stand in the same place. Wei Hong turned around and walked towards the hall, and Dingzhu naturally followed subconsciously. However, Wei Hong suddenly stopped, turned around and asked Dingzhu, "By the way, the tunnel you dug will not be discovered by others, right? This is a loophole that must be prevented." Dingzhu did not expect Wei Hong to stop suddenly. She almost bumped into him. When she heard Wei Hong's question, she answered in a daze, No, it shouldn't be." Seeing this, Wei Hong didn't understand. So he said to Dingzhu, "Wait for me here first." After that, he went into the tunnel that Dingzhu dug out. Dingzhu was confused, not knowing what he was going to do. After a while, there was a faint rumbling sound from the direction of the tunnel, and even Dingzhu's position was slightly shaken. She realized that Wei Hong had completely collapsed the tunnel. After a while, Wei Hong returned to Dingzhou and used the sand fossilization technique for the last time to completely block the hole. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 533, Look at Me with New Eyes. Come on, follow me over there. After blocking the hole, Wei Hong nodded to Dingzhou with satisfaction. Seeing Wei Hong's skillful movements, Dingzhou was stunned. So, this is how it was built. Dingzhou murmured with some shock in her eyes as she followed Wei Hong subconsciously. Then the scene she saw next surprised her even more. After leaving the kitchen, she followed Wei Hong through a passage that was neither long nor short. The entire passage was made of dark black boulders, and it looked like a hole. After walking through this passage and passing through a stone door, they came to an extremely spacious stone-walled hall. This spacious hall was also made of the same dark black boulders. Seeing such a spacious stone-walled hall underground almost made Dingzhou's mouth agape. Did you dig all this out yourself, Brother Wei? Looking up and looking around the spacious hall where she was standing, Dingzhou was surprised. Wei Hong nodded casually and said, "Come, sit down first." He motioned Dingzhou to sit down with him at the table in the middle of the hall, and personally poured Dingzhou a cup of tea. In this hall, in addition to a large stone table and a few chairs, Wei Hong also placed some stone benches around the hall, and there was nothing else. "Thank you, fellow Taoist Wei." Dingzhou took the cup of tea and thanked him weakly. At this time, Wei Hong took out a formation flag from his storage bag, put it on the table and pushed it in front of Dingzhou. In Dingzhou's puzzled eyes, he explained, "Fellow Taoisting, I have set up a formation here. You can take this formation flag to ensure that you will not be blocked by the formation when entering the safe hall." Formation. Dingzhou was surprised. She didn't expect that there was a formation in this hall. She immediately widened her eyes and asked, "No wonder I felt a trace of spiritual fluctuations when I entered the hall just now. It turned out to be a formation. Fellow Taoist Wei, are you also a formation master?" "I can't say I'm a formation master, but I can set up one or two formations," Wei Hong just replied lightly. But Dingzhou immediately understood, and a look of joy appeared on her face. Then she chuckled and said, It seems that I am blessed to be protected by fellow Taoist Wei." Seeing that Wei Hong was not a cruel and violent person, Dingzhou seemed to be a little bolder. And if someone who can set up one or two formations is not a formation master, then who else can be one? After taking the formation flag, Dingzhou felt for the first time how wise it was to use the foundation building method in exchange for the right to live in this underground palace. Although Wei Hong did not say what formation he had arranged, the existence of a formation and the absence of a formation are two completely different situations. After learning about the existence of the formation, Dingzhou's sense of security was greatly improved. Wei Hong waved his hand and said, "Fellow Taoisting, you are too polite. Since you and I have reached a deal, I will naturally do my best to protect you. I will give you a brief introduction to this place later, and then you can choose a practice room to live in." "Thank you, fellow Taoist Wei." Dingzhou expressed her gratitude sincerely. "You're welcome." Wei Hong took a sip of tea slowly, and then said, "The fact that you can find this place shows that you are lucky. Now the outside world is as chaotic as hell. It is fate that we meet here. I hope we can help each other in the future and strive to survive. What do you think, fellow Taoisting?" "Yes." Dingzhou nodded quickly and responded with approval, "Fellow Taoist Wei is right. I hope that fellow Taoist Wei can help me more in the future. I will be very grateful." "Haha, there is no need to say too much gratitude." Wei Hong waved his hand, but then asked, "By the way, I wonder where fellow Taoisting practiced before? Why has I heard of fellow Taoisting's name?" Although the two of them have no conflicts of interest now and have to continue to survive in this underground palace together, Wei Hong always keeps a trace of vigilance in his heart, and now he wants to explore Dingzhou's background. Dingzhou seemed to be unaware of it, and replied weakly, "I seldom go out, and I used to stay in the small courtyard to practice alone. It's normal that fellow Taoist Wei has never heard of me." "Oh? That's right. By the way, I wonder if fellow Taoisting has any skills?" Wei Hong asked again. "Skills?" Dingzhou was stunned for a moment, and then she responded, I can make pills, I am an alchemist, now I can make several first-grade middle-grade pills." Alchemist. Wei Hong's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but continue to ask, then fellow Taoisting is self-taught? Or is it a family inheritance? You can actually make first-grade middle-grade pills, amazing. Wei Hong saw that she didn't seem to be very old, and her cultivation had not only reached the 6th level of key training, but she was also an alchemist. This made him look at her with some respect. Dingzu's face flashed with a trace of embarrassment, and she replied somewhat embarrassedly, "It is the alchemist inheritance passed down by the family. I am the only one left in my generation. I don't usually communicate with others. I only rely on myself to practice, so my cultivation is not high, and my alchemy level is not high. I'm sorry to make fun of you, Brother Wei. I don't deserve to be laughed at. Brother Ding is already very powerful. You have both cultivation and alchemy. This is something that ordinary casual cultivators can't compare to." Wei Hong didn't mean to laugh at him at all, but praised him again. He knew how difficult it was to make an alchemy. In order to remove the poison of the pill, he practiced for a long time before he could make the kindling pill. So far, he can only make the kindling pill. So seeing that Dingzu was actually an alchemist, he couldn't help but feel like he had picked up a treasure. Moreover, although Dingzu had a family inheritance, she didn't have anyone to help her. She could reach this level by practicing and refining pills alone. It must be said that this is definitely an extraordinary talent. If there was no help from the system, Wei Hong couldn't catch up with him even if he flattered himself. Dingzu was even more embarrassed at this time. She said shyly, No, I don't deserve the praise from fellow Taoist Wei. I just figured it out by myself. I usually rely on Bai Ling to find some spiritual herbs and medicines for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have so many spiritual stones to buy materials, let alone improve my alchemy to the current level. After saying this, Wei Hong looked at the treasure-hunting rat with even more surprise. He didn't expect that this treasure-hunting rat would really have such a big effect. As Dingzu spoke, she told all about her own situation like pouring beans. From her mouth, Wei Hong learned that Dingzu usually relied on the treasure-hunting rat Bai Ling to find spiritual herbs and medicines for her to support her alchemy needs. In addition, the spiritual stones accumulated from selling pills made her life pretty good. After listening to this, Wei Hong couldn't help but envy her carefree life of cultivation. Chapter 534 Everyone gets what they want. You are living a good life. Wei Hong sighed. Alice, what's the point of saying this now? Dingzu sighed with a look of melancholy. Everything is ruined, it's good enough to save a life. That's right. Wei Hong also sighed. As long as the strange fog does not dissipate, we can't feel at ease. If we don't leave Qingyuan Mountain Market, we can't survive for a long time. Until this moment, the two of them felt a sense of sympathy. They were both people who were forced into a dead end by the strange fog. No matter how they lived in the past, now they can only try their best to avoid the strange fog and do whatever it takes to survive. In this way, the strangeness between Wei Hong and Dingzu suddenly dissipated a lot. Wei Hong chuckled at this time. To be honest with you, fellow Taoisting, I have studied alchemy a little bit. I hope you can give me some advice later. His current alchemy level cannot be compared with Dingzu, but if he is given some time, enough resources to invest, and a suitable recipe, he will naturally catch up with Dingzu soon. When Dingzu heard that Wei Hong could actually make pills, she was surprised. She couldn't help asking, fellow Taoist Wei, you can also make pills? So you are not only a formation master, but also a pill refiner. Dingzu was surprised that one person could master two major skills. You know, they are only key training cultivators, not giant cultivators. They have to spend most of their time practicing, and only choose one skill to practice in the remaining time. Few people can practice two skills at the same time and master them. Wei Hong's background shocked Dingzu. Wei Hong smiled faintly and said, I guess so, but I can only make the first-level middle-grade kindling pill at present, and I can't make any other pills. Kindling pill? Is it the kind of kindling pill that can remove pill poison? Dingzu exclaimed when she heard it. As an alchemist, how could she not know the name of kindling pill? Although the light spirit pill is only a first-grade middle-grade pill, its function is different from other pills. It is a special type of pill that can help people get rid of pill poison. Therefore, it is not easy to refine the light spirit pill. It is even more difficult to refine than some first-grade top-grade pills. At least Dingzu cannot refine the light spirit pill at present. Moreover, the price of this type of pill is extremely expensive. People who can refine this kind of pill will definitely not live too badly. At this moment, Dingzhu has begun to admire Wei Hong in her heart. Wei Hong nodded and said, "Yes, it is the kindling pill that can remove the poison of the pill. I wonder what kind of pills fellow Taoisting can refine now." Hearing this question, Dingzhu seemed to be excited all of a sudden. She immediately smiled and replied, I can refine Yangying pill, Kingxin pill, Yulu pill and Shengu pill now. I still don't know how to refine kindling pill. Fellow Taoist Wei, can you give me some pointers?" It seemed that when talking about refining pills, Dingzhu became a different person. It seemed that she had thrown away her cowardice and was only concerned about refining pills. Wei Hong didn't expect Dingzhu to become a different person when talking about refining pills, but he seemed to understand that it was because of this focused mentality that even if Dingzhu practiced alone, she could reach the level of a first-level middle-grade alchemist. He immediately smiled and said, "Of course, I don't dare to give you advice. Let's just communicate with each other. Anyway, we have a lot of time to stay in this underground palace. I also hope to exchange more experiences in alchemy with fellow Taoisting." That's great. I have a few recipes here. If fellow Taoist Wei doesn't mind, I can make a copy. Dingzhu seemed very generous at this time and took out a few recipes without hesitation. Seeing this, Wei Hong let down his guard a little and began to exchange various experiences in alchemy with her. At the same time, they were also learning from each other about alchemy skills. Wei Hong taught Dingzhu how to make kindling down without reservation and made a copy of the recipe for her. Dingzhu taught all the several kinds of elixirs she could make. Wei Hong gained a lot and also got several useful recipes from Dingzhu. In this way, the two of them can be said to have gained something. After some communication, Wei Hong and Dingzhu got along well. The two gradually let down their guard and began to regard each other as people who could provide temporary help. In fact, it was Wei Hong who let down his guard. Dingzhu was already very excited to be able to get Wei Hong's protection, live in this underground palace, and get to know Wei Hong, who also had experience in alchemy. She felt that this trip was worthwhile, so why would she be wary? Wei Hong relied on his own strength and arranged formations everywhere in the underground palace. He was confident that even if Dingzhu wanted to attack him, he would have enough time to react and suppress her, so he didn't need to be afraid of such a woman. Now it seems that Dingzhu really poses no threat to him, and her alchemy skills are very solid, which has benefited him a lot, so he is happy to keep her. After communicating for 2 hours, Wei Hong began to introduce the situation of the underground palace to Dingzhu. "Fellow Taoisting, you already know what's here in the hall. The stone door opposite us is the entrance to the underground palace. The passage outside the stone door is the entrance to the tunnel, which leads to the outside world. I have also set up a formation near the stone door, just make a note of it, fellow Taoisting. Also, these 3 passages are temporarily blocked, so you don't have to pay attention to them. In addition, there are several passages in the underground palace that lead to different areas, including the talisman drawing room, alchemy room, practice room, kitchen, and spell practice room, etc. If you have time, you can slowly familiarize yourself with them, and then choose one to live in." This underground palace was dug by Wei Hong to be extremely spacious. Not to mention accommodating Dingzhu alone, even if there are hundreds of people living there, there would be no problem. So Wei Hong briefly introduced the situation here and let Dingzhu choose. Dingzhu was smart. She asked Wei Hong to open up another practice room next to his original practice room as her daily residence. The 2 practice rooms were not far from each other, and Wei Hong could provide support immediately if any unexpected situation occurred. Wei Hong was quite amused by this, but he did not refuse. Instead, he spent some time to meet Dingzhu's request and opened up another practice room for her. As for the furniture and tools needed in the practice room, these were not difficult to solve. If it was not possible, Wei Hong would find them for her from the small courtyard, and finally helped her complete the settlement. At this point, Dingzhu officially lived in this underground palace. Chapter 535, Take Pleasure in Someone Else's Misfortune. Qingyuan Mountain Market. After waiting for more than a month, the strange fog did not really swallow up the Qingyuan Mountain Market. Because the shield formed by the formation outside the market successfully blocked the erosion of the strange fog and kept the strange fog out, so that the whole market would not fall into the strange fog. However, the strange fog also successfully surrounded the entire market. Outside the formation, All you can see is thick black fog, which rolls and surges from time to time, and also shows many evil ghost faces. Therefore, although the formation blocked the strange fog, it failed to block the invasion of the strange. From time to time, an unknown number of strange things broke through the defense of the formation and harassed and invaded the monks in the market. As a result, the casualties of the monks in the market became more serious. As time went on, the forces in the market broke out several times in conflicts. In the chaos, the number of casualties has long been impossible to estimate. Perhaps less than 20% of the people in the whole market have survived. At this stage, even if the major groups wanted to continue fighting or conflicts, they were powerless. Even the survivors would no longer obey orders. They just wanted to survive and did not want to engage in meaningless fighting. Under this situation, the black markets in the market were still able to barely hold on. The surviving monks all relied on the black market to exchange for the materials they needed to barely survive. Gradually, the atmosphere in the market became heavier and more desperate. Many monks had already become like zombies, with only the desire to survive in their hearts to support them. Moreover, the things sold in the black market became more and more precious, but the prices became cheaper and cheaper. The prices of spiritual rice, monster meat, and exorcism talismans became more and more expensive day by day. It can be said that the price changed every day, but everyone was gritting their teeth to support it. There was no way. If you don't buy, you can only wait to die. At this time, the most valuable magic tools, spells, pill recipes, array scrolls, talismans, and various rare materials, etc., are now on the rise, because no matter how precious the magic tools are, if they cannot deal with weirdness, they will not be able to exchange for many pounds of spiritual rice and monster meat. Since they cannot help the survival of the cultivators, how much value can they have? As a result, all kinds of good things in the black market appear in batches. At this time, there was a piece of news from Kingayan sect. It is said that more and more weirdness began to appear inside Kingayan sect. Although it was previously cleansed by the giant and patriarch with the help of the Jiang Bell and other sect magic treasures, as time went on, more and more weirdness began to pass through the Kingayan sect's protective formation and enter the sect to ruthlessly kill and infringe on the disciples of Kingayan sect. After a few months, it can be said that there were countless casualties. Even the giant and patriarch had no way to deal with it. I don't know why he no longer used the Jiang Bell and other sect treasures to suppress the weirdness, but let it develop, and the disciples of Kingayan sect continued to die. Many people are even still wondering, isn't it said that Kingayan sect has 6 or 7 giant ancestors? Why did we only see one giant ancestor appear and fight with a giant tree monster before, but the other giant ancestors were nowhere to be seen? Moreover, at this moment when the sect's inheritance is likely to be extinct, there is no reason for the giant ancestor with the highest combat power not to appear. Since he didn't appear, there can only be a few reasons. One is that he is not on the sect, the second is that he is in seclusion, and the third is that he is held back by other things. In short, he can no longer support the sect. Such news made the surviving cultivators in the market first gloat over the misfortune, and then fell into greater panic and despair, and was simply in a state of panic all day long. After all, even a large sect like Kingayan sect has suffered countless casualties and even fallen into a desperate situation. Then, wouldn't they, ordinary casual cultivators, have even less hope? Would they all die? The mood of despair began to spread to all the survivors in the market. In the underground palace, in the training room, Wei Hong sat cross-legged on the golden silk cushion, with his hands on his knees, eyes closed, face calm. The spiritual energy around him kept surging and then being absorbed into his dantian, and a green spiritual light flashed from time to time around him. Obviously, Wei Hong was practicing. Compared with those monks outside who were unpredictable and live day by day, his life was calm and monotonous, but it seemed extremely peaceful and leisurely, and very safe, without worrying about strange attacks. In this underground palace, in addition to practicing, Wei Hong either drew talismans or practiced various spells, and from time to time he also made some talisman skins, or cooked a pot of delicious food to enjoy. Such a life is not only comfortable, but also very reassuring. If those monks outside knew about it, perhaps the jealous anger alone would be enough to burn Wei Hong directly to ashes. After a long while, Wei Hong slowly opened his eyes. Phew, I have reached the 8th level of key training. It is really comfortable to practice here. No one disturbs me and I don't need to be distracted. There is no shortage of various supplies. I don't care what the chaos outside is like. After practicing in this underground palace for more than half a year, Wei Hong directly stepped into the 8th level of key training. After entering the 8th level of key training, his strength surged again. He had already mastered more than 10 first-level high-quality spells looted from the black market, and they had all been maxed out to the limit. In this way, these spells can not only be cast instantly, but also have terrible power, which greatly increases Wei Hong's combat means. The 8 talismans purchased from the black market outside the market before, plus a few more looted from the black market later, more than 10 talismans have now all been practiced to the great success level. Perhaps it won't take long for them to be maxed out to the limit. How can such a life not make Wei Hong extremely satisfied? Moreover, he would exchange his experience in alchemy with Lingzhu from time to time. Although there was no underground fire in the underground palace, and he could not make elixirs for the time being, the exchange of alchemy experience still made Wei Hong gain a lot. Under his protection, Lingzhu also lived a safe and peaceful life like him. Although he could not make elixirs for the time being, such a peaceful life made Lingzhu devote all her time and energy to cultivation. Not long ago, Lingzhu also broke through to the 7th level of key training, which made her feel pleasantly surprised, and her attitude towards Wei Hong became more and more friendly. Fortunately, I thought of taking refuge underground, otherwise I would probably live a desperate life like other cultivators. Wei Hong felt fortunate when he thought of the desperate and numb lives of those cultivators outside. He also returned to the small courtyard on the ground from time to time to observe, so as to prevent someone from breaking the formation without knowing it. The secrets of the underground palace must not be leaked. Chapter 536, 9th level of key training. Time passed day by day. Wei Hong also stayed in the underground palace to practice hard, and drew talismans and made leather in his spare time. In this way, 2 years passed in a flash. In these 2 years, too many things happened in both the market and the Kingayan sect. But thinking carefully, it seems that nothing has been discovered. The Kingayan sect is still raging with weirdness, and countless casualties. The giant patriarch of the Kingayan sect no longer showed up, leaving his disciples to resist on their own. The market was almost reduced to purgatory, and it was impossible to estimate how many survivors were under him. Anyway, the survivors who could survive until this time were either very high in cultivation or had special means. In short, those who were not capable had already been swallowed by the weirdness. After 2 years of hard practice, Wei Hong finally entered the realm of the 9th level of key training. In the training room. Swish! Wei Hong opened his eyes, as if a flash of light flashed by, and the whole person exuded an extremely powerful aura, like a volcano that had been accumulating for many years, which could erupt with unimaginable power at any time. Finally, I have entered the 9th level of key training. Wei Hong clenched his hands, a trace of joy flashed across his face. He had been practicing hard day and night for the past 2 years, and finally reaped the fruits. Moreover, in the past 2 years, he had maxed out all the various spells, talismans, pill recipes, formations, etc. that he had obtained to the limit. Now that he had broken through to the 9th level of key training, his strength had skyrocketed to a very powerful level. It can even be said that under the foundation building stage, his combat power is absolutely invincible. Among people of the same level, perhaps he only needs to send out a few spells to defeat them. Such strength is enough to make many cultivators in the early stage of foundation building look at him sideways. However, except for Wei Hong himself, no one knew how powerful his combat power was. It's time to go out again. I want to see who dares to attack me now. Wei Hong sneered secretly. So he stood up and walked towards the direction of the stone-walled hall. When he passed by Lingzhu's training room, he paused. He only sensed that Lingzhu was practicing, so he did not disturb her, but left directly. Soon, he passed through the tunnel and returned to his courtyard on the ground. At this moment, with his current strength, why would he need to find a secret tunnel exit? Even if he left the courtyard openly, no one would dare to spy on him. Besides, who in the market has the energy to pay attention to others? Wei Hong quietly opened a gap in the formation and walked out of the courtyard as the formation master Guan Yu. As expected, he did not see any figure after walking out of the courtyard. Looking at the empty market, Wei Hong frowned and sighed. I don't know if Chen Yan and others are still alive. That's all. Being able to set up a formation for them is the greatest help. Looking around, He did not see anything unusual in the courtyard of Chen Yan and others. He simply stopped thinking about it and walked towards the black market. Wei Hong did not intend to restrain his aura at all, but instead showed all his cultivation. As he walked along, although he sensed some prying eyes, he still didn't see any figures. The emptiness made people feel palpitating. Looking at the empty market, Wei Hong sighed secretly as he walked. Who would have thought that the prosperous market in the past is now like a ghost den, empty and without a single figure? Even hell wouldn't be like this. Compared with the past, such a huge contrast made Wei Hong quite emotional. It was not until he was about to reach the entrance of the black market that he saw a few figures. After sensing Wei Hong's 9th level key training aura, the figures guarding the entrance of the black market immediately avoided him like avoiding snakes and scorpions, not daring to look at them anymore, and let Wei Hong walk directly into the black market. After entering the black market, he glanced casually and found that there were only more than a dozen stalls left in the black market at this time, which was a world of difference compared to the lively scene he saw when he first came. Forget it, just take a look. Maybe it won't be long before this black market is closed. Wei Hong shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Instead, he walked towards the nearest stall. In the past 2 years, he has been in and out of the black market many times and has looted a lot of good things from the black market. Many of them were things he couldn't buy before, and even he didn't have the money to buy them. It must be said that such an opportunity is not only rare, but also makes Wei Hong's harvest reach an unimaginable level of abundance. As long as he takes out the market, the resources he gets are even enough to support him to advance to the foundation building stage. Magical instruments, spells, pill recipes, elixirs, talismans, formations, spiritual flowers and herbs, and various rare materials, etc. In short, Wei Hong did not let go of any of them that he could get into his pocket. For this, he also paid a lot of evil-killing talismans and scorching sun talismans. Fortunately, no one dared to attack him at that time, and those who dared to attack him were directly killed on the spot. Under the deterrence, Wei Hong no longer had any obstacles to enter and exit the black market. Moreover, after 2 years of plundering, he used the evil-killing talisman to exchange for a large number of monster furs and talisman skins. Although he had consumed and traded a lot of evil-killing talismans in his storage bag, it has now increased instead of decreased. He still has thousands of them, and even retains hundreds of first-class monster furs. He came out this time just to see if he could find some good things. Moreover, although Wei Hong was deep in the underground palace, he came out several times. He had keenly felt that the situation that had lasted for 2 years was likely to change. Dao, what is the price of spiritual rice now? Walking to the stall selling spiritual rice and monster meat, Wei Hong asked the price directly. He didn't know where these people got so much spiritual rice and monster meat from in the past 2 years. In short, as long as someone is willing to spend a lot of money to buy it, there must be someone to sell it. Especially now that only 1 in 10 cultivators in the market is left, the sales of spiritual rice and monster meat and other daily necessities have also greatly decreased, but the price is still getting more expensive day by day, and no one can change it. The middle-aged stall owner in a black robe looked up at Wei Hong, and when he found out that he was at the 9th level of key training, his eyes narrowed slightly, and then he replied in a hoarse voice, "Today's 3 caddies of high-quality spiritual rice can be exchanged for 1 evil-killing talisman, and I only accept the evil-killing talisman." The situation has developed to the point where it seems that even the first-level medium-quality Fiery Sun talisman can't pose any threat to the weird, so the only hard currency now is the first-level high-quality evil-killing talisman, and only the evil-killing talisman can threaten the weird. 1 evil-killing talisman for 3 caddies of high-quality spiritual rice. This price made Wei Hong grit his teeth. You know, when he first came to this black market, 1 evil-killing talisman could be exchanged for 10 caddies of high-quality spiritual rice, but now it can only be exchanged for 3 caddies. This skyrocketing price is enough to make ordinary people stay away. Chapter 537 The money and goods are exchanged. The movements of Kingayan sect. I want 90 kilograms of high-quality spiritual rice and 90 kilograms of high-quality monster meat. After thinking about it, Wei Hong gritted his teeth and bought some. Although he still had some food on hand, no one would think that such daily necessities were too much. Take the stall owner in front of him, for example. If it wasn't for the purpose of trading for the demon-slaying talisman, how could he sell the spiritual rice and monster meat? As the saying goes, if you have food in your hands, you won't be in a hurry, so Wei Hong chose to store more. Okay, a total of 60 demon-slaying talismans, thank you, fellow Taoist. The middle-aged stall owner in a black robe saw that such a large transaction was completed in an instant, and his face couldn't help but flash a trace of joy and excitement. Maybe, with these 60 demon-slaying talismans, he can just save his life? Wei Hong nodded, counted out 60 demon-slaying talismans and handed them over. The middle-aged stall owner quickly packed the supplies that Wei Hong needed and handed them over, and the two sides made a deal. After putting the supplies into the storage bag, Wei Hong slowly scanned the surroundings with an expressionless face. The aura of the 9th level of key training was enough to suppress all the prying eyes. Even if Wei Hong took out so many evil-killing talismans at once, no one dared to covet them openly, and could only turn a blind eye. Wei Hong walked towards another stall with satisfaction, but he was still vigilant and alert in his heart. In today's market, the 9th level of key training is definitely the top combat power. Generally, they only plunder others, and no one dares to take advantage of them. Wei Hong's purpose was very clear, he only looked for good things that he didn't have at the moment. Therefore, he quickly visited all the stalls in the black market. At this time, he was about to get up and leave from the last stall, but the skinny old man's eyes flickered slightly, and then suddenly called Wei Hong, "My fellow Taoist, I want to make a deal with you." "Oh? Deal?" Wei Hong turned his head in confusion, glanced at the things on the stall, and then asked, "Do you have other good things that you haven't taken out?" No, it's not a trade item, but a piece of news that you may be interested in." The old stall owner stroked his beard with a confident smile on his face. "News?" Wei Hong frowned and asked with some doubt, "What news? Why are you sure I am interested?" "A piece of news about a way out. Maybe this news will be spread in a few days, but if you can know it in advance, you can naturally make more preparations. What do you think, fellow Taoist?" The old man's words were vague. Wei Hong was moved when he heard this. He looked at the old stall owner deeply and asked, "How do you know that the information in your hand is really valuable? By the way, what do you want?" As a casual cultivator, Wei Hong's sources of information were far less accessible than other cultivators. Since the old man pretended to be well informed, he naturally wanted to hear what information the old man could bring him. Upon hearing this, the old man knew that the real show was about to begin, so he immediately said with a serious face, "I guarantee that this news is absolutely true, and it will be completely spread within 3 days at the latest. This matter is about Kingayan sect. I only need 10 evil-killing talismans. Of course, if you think you can wait a few days, then just pretend that I didn't say anything." After saying this, the old man stared at Wei Hong with a burning gaze. Obviously, he had already set his eyes on the evil-killing talisman in Wei Hong's hand. Wei Hong was lost in thought. He had understood what the old man meant. After thinking for a while, he said bluntly, 10 evil-killing talismans are naturally no problem, but if I think this news is not worth 10 evil-killing talismans, then fellow Taoists should consider the consequences. For him, 10 evil-killing talismans were naturally no problem. If he could get important news a few days in advance, he would be willing to spend even 20 evil-killing talismans. Seeing this, the old man immediately nodded and said, "Okay, I have engraved this news in the jade slip. Fellow Taoist, check it yourself." After saying that, he handed over a jade slip. Wei Hong was not afraid. He took the jade slip and stuck it on his forehead. After a moment, his eyes suddenly opened. "Fellow Taoist, are you sure this news is true?" Wei Hong asked the old man with a hint of deterrence in his eyes. "It's true. Do you think it's worth 10 evil-killing talismans?" The old man smiled confidently. "Worth it? Of course it's worth it." Wei Hong put away all his expressions and let out a long breath. After saying that, he took out 10 evil-killing talismans and handed them to the old man, then left quickly without looking back. At this moment, Wei Hong's thoughts in his heart were rolling violently like turbulent waves. What a Kingayan sect! They are actually preparing to abandon their sect and flee. It seems that even Kingayan sect can't stand it. This area may soon become a dead place. As Wei Hong walked, various thoughts flashed through his mind. Just because there was only a short sentence written in the jade slip, Kingayan sect's giant and patriarch decided to abandon the sect's foundation and flee from the weird domain. Although this sentence seems simple, the information contained in it is extremely important. The Kingayan sect was about to fail and was about to abandon the sect's foundation. The entire sect fled from the weird domain. This news shocked Wei Hong. If this news is true, then the current situation is very dangerous. Even a sect like Kingayan sect is forced to abandon the mountain gate and foundation that have been passed down for thousands of years, which means that the weird crisis has reached a terrifying level that they can no longer bear. If they don't leave now, the entire sect will be wiped out. Wei Hong even felt a deep despair from the news, and a bloody suffocation came over him. This news completely disrupted all his plans. But it was exactly what he had expected before, and the accident was about to happen. It's impossible to hide this news, and it may spread completely in a few days. Wei Hong's mind turned rapidly, and he quickly thought, although it cost 10 evil killing talismans, it was really worth it. It would be good to know the news even one day earlier. It's a pity that I don't know the specific time for Kingayan sect to evacuate. The earlier he knew the news, the earlier he could prepare. In his opinion, the 10 evil killing talismans were worth it. Thinking of this, Wei Hong quickened his pace, and then thought, no, I have to go back and discuss with Lingzhu. Her treasure-hunting rat Bai Ling is born with a strange gift, which can find a glimmer of life in the dark. This time, I must take Bai Ling with me to escape from the strange domain. Wei Hong had already experienced the strange ability of the treasure-hunting rat in Dingzhu's hand, otherwise Dingzhu would not have been able to find his underground palace with the help of Bai Ling, so he decided to take both Dingzhu and Bai Ling with him to escape from the strange domain this time. Soon, he returned to his small courtyard and returned to the underground palace. After entering the underground palace, he went straight to Dingzhu's practice room. Chapter 538, Choice, A Glimmer of Hope. In the underground palace, Wei Hong patted the stone door of the training room where Dingzhu lived. After a long while, Dingzhu opened the stone door with a puzzled look. Wei, what's wrong? Wei Hong had never looked for her like this before, and she saw that Wei Hong's face was solemn. Obviously there was something extremely important, or he had encountered some difficulties. Wei Hong did not answer immediately, but called her, Ding, please follow me to the hall, there are important things to discuss in detail. Okay. Dingzhu responded, followed Wei Hong and walked to the hall. Sitting down in front of the stone table in the middle of the hall, Wei Hong poured a cup of tea for himself and Dingzhu. After taking a sip of tea, Wei Hong slowly said, Ding, I just learned an important news. Dingzhu did not speak, but looked at Wei Hong quietly. Wei Hong did not need her to reply, and then explained, it is said that Kingayan sect will completely abandon the foundation of the sect in the near future, and the entire sect will flee from the strange domain. After saying that, he stared at Dingzhu's eyes. As expected, Dingzhu's eyes shrank immediately, and a look of shock appeared on her face. It was obvious that her first reaction was to be frightened by the news. Fellow Taoist Wei, is the news true? Dingzhu was not stupid, and naturally knew the seriousness of the matter. But she could not have imagined that such a large Kingayan sect would not be able to hold on. It seemed that the horror of the weirdness was far beyond her imagination. At this time, Dingzhu was extremely fortunate in her heart. If Bai Ling had not led her here, she might have been swallowed by the weirdness if she had stayed outside, and she would not have been able to live such a comfortable life now. Wei Hong nodded solemnly and said, it should be true, and it will be completely spread soon. He had predicted 2 days ago that the situation might change soon, and now the arrival of this news just confirmed his thoughts. Dingzhu's face tensed up. After thinking for a while, she asked, if that's the case, is there any other news from Kingayan sect? Will they take us with them? There are still some survivors in the market, what should we do with them? It must be said that Dingzhu's 2 questions were to the point. Wei Hong looked at her with admiration, and then said thoughtfully, the specific news has not been spread, and I only know that Kingayan sect is preparing to evacuate. But I think Kingayan sect will definitely take the survivors from the market with them, so we have a chance to escape with them. But the process of escaping may be extremely dangerous. Fellow Taoisting, do you think we should escape with Kingayan sect? The fact that Wei Hong could find Dingzhu to discuss it with her proved the importance of Dingzhu. Of course, the most important thing is Bai Ling, the treasure-hunting rat. Just because Bai Ling is Dingzhu's pet, Wei Hong must take Dingzhu with him if he wants to take Bai Ling with him. Dingzhu didn't think so much. She pondered for a long time before saying, I think it's best to escape with Kingayan sect. After all, Kingayan sect is powerful, and there are giant and stage ancestors and a large number of foundation-building cultivators. If we escape together, the chance of survival should be much greater. What do you think, fellow Taoist Wei? To be honest, for people like Dingzhu, The power of the big sects has always been engraved in their minds. Even if they have fallen to the point of regulating the strange domain, Dingzhu still has a strong confidence in Qingyuan sect. However, Wei Hong did not answer her question. Instead, he asked meaningfully, "Fellow Taoisting, if Qingyuan sect can agree to take the people from the market to escape together, do you think Qingyuan sect is really generous and full of compassion? Or do they have ulterior motives?" "What do you mean, fellow Taoist Wei?" Dingzhu's face changed instantly. Wei Hong laughed coldly at this time. "It's very simple. If Qingyuan sect spread the word that they would take all the survivors to escape, then they must have their own intentions. Maybe they want to use us as cannon fodder? Use us to attract the attention of the weird, and then facilitate their escape. What should I do?" Dingzhu was also at a loss for words because of Wei Hong's speculation. But after thinking about it carefully, she knew that Wei Hong's speculation was absolutely reasonable. For a moment, Dingzhu couldn't help but hesitate again. In fact, Wei Hong was also very hesitant. He knew that if he escaped with Qingyuan sect, he would definitely be used as cannon fodder. But if he didn't seize this opportunity to escape from here, it would be extremely difficult for him to escape again, or even never have a chance. This was something he couldn't accept at all. And if he didn't escape from here, he might be trapped here for the rest of his life. If not only Qingyuan sect but also all the survivors in the market leave, even if he stays in the underground palace and is not disturbed by the strange, he will not be able to get any supplies of daily necessities, and he will still die. Such a result is also unacceptable to Wei Hong. Although Wei Hong did not expect that Qingyuan sect would really abandon the foundation of the sect and flee from the strange domain, he understood that there were fewer and fewer survivors in the market, and various daily necessities were slowly becoming unavailable. Even without the news of Qingyuan sect, he and Dingzhu would not be able to survive for too long. More than 2 years seemed to have reached the limit. Therefore, in Wei Hong's heart, he was still inclined to flee with Qingyuan sect. Even though he knew that he might be used as cannon fodder, he had to seize this opportunity. If he did not escape, he would die, but if he escaped, there was still a glimmer of hope. Of course, there was no need to say more about these ideas to Dingzhu. Dingzhu hesitated for a long time, struggling and making choices in her heart, and then slowly said, "Dao Wei, what you said is not unreasonable, but there is only one chance to escape from the strange domain. I don't know what you think, but I think we must seize this opportunity, even if we are used as cannon fodder. We must fight for that glimmer of hope." When she said this, a firm look appeared on the face of Dingzhu, who was originally as timid as a mouse. Even Wei Hong was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Dingzhu would become reliable at such a critical moment. With a hint of agreement on his face, he nodded and said, "Dao Outing is right, and Wei has the same idea. This opportunity is rare. If we don't seize it, we may be trapped here in the future. So we have to evacuate, but we have to evacuate in a prepared manner." Prepared evacuation. Dingzhu was full of doubts. "Yes, we must be fully prepared." Wei Hong nodded and said solemnly, "Even if we are used as cannon fodder, as long as we are well prepared, there is a great possibility that we can escape with them." When he said this, Wei Hong's eyes were full of determination. Chapter 539. Give it a try. "Dao Wei, if you need me to do anything, just tell me." Dingzhu glanced at Wei Hong and expressed her opinion without hesitation. She knew very well that even if she wanted to escape from here with Qingyuan sect, she must not leave Wei Hong's protection. This was the most important thing. Dingzhu was very clear-headed about this. Without Wei Hong's protection, she would not be able to escape even if she followed Qingyuan sect. She would even be used as cannon fodder at the first time. Therefore, after the two reached a consensus, Dingzhu began to put herself in the right position and took the initiative to ask for some preparations that she could do to prove her role, so as not to be abandoned by Wei Hong. In the past 2 years, Wei Hong has broken through from the 7th level of key training to the 9th level of key training. She witnessed and watched Wei Hong improve step by step, which also shocked Dingzhu for a long time. You know, she is still stuck at the peak of the 7th level of key training, and she is just one step away from breaking through to the 8th level of key training. Compared with Wei Hong, she is far behind. So facing such a thick thigh, there is no reason for Dingzhu not to hug it desperately. Only by following Wei Hong can they really escape. Facing such a sensible Dingzhu, Wei Hong couldn't help but show satisfaction in his eyes. Then he said directly without being polite, "Fellow Taoisting, we have a lot of things to prepare, but I will be responsible for most of them. It is not convenient for you to go to the black market. Prepare all your supplies in advance and be ready to evacuate at any time. In addition, count the supplies that can be used in the underground palace, and I will take them all away when the time comes. I will talk about other things when I think of them. Anyway, try to prepare as much as possible." Dingzhu nodded obediently after hearing this and said, "Okay, everything is up to you, fellow Taoist Wei." The two discussed it again, and Dingzhu turned around and returned to her practice room. Wei Hong was still sitting on the stool, and the whole person fell into deep thought. What he said to Dingzhu just now was actually not wrong at all. Since they decided to follow Qingyuan sect to escape from the strange domain, there were many things that needed to be prepared, but most of them could only be done by himself. The first thing was the daily necessities such as spiritual rice and monster meat. He also needed to buy a large number of spare parts. The second is the evil-killing talisman. Although he still has thousands of them, facing the terrifying and unimaginable number of weird things, Wei Hong would not mind even if the number of evil-killing talismans increased several times. He needs to use the time before the news spreads to buy all the supplies in the black market as much as possible, otherwise the black market will no longer exist when the news spreads. Although the specific evacuation time of Qingyuan is not yet clear, he still needs to draw as many evil-killing talismans as possible during this period to prepare for any disaster, which is also to increase their chances of survival as much as possible. After thinking carefully about various plans and ideas in his mind, Wei Hong walked out of the underground palace again. In the next 2 days, Wei Hong changed his various identities and appearances, frequently went in and out of the black market, and bought all the materials he could use, so that he spent hundreds of evil-killing talismans. On the third day, the news about Qingyuan finally spread thoroughly in the market. Have you heard? It is said that the Qingyuan sect is going to flee the strange domain, as they can't hold on any longer. No way? This is not a joke. Is this true or false? It's absolutely true. The Qingyuan sect has spread the news. Who doesn't know it now? Haha, it turns out that a large sect like the Qingyuan sect can't hold on any longer. It seems that there are many casualties inside the Qingyuan sect. Quick, go find out if there is any other news. No one knows where the rumor came from, or if it was originally released by the Qingyuan sect itself, saying that the Qingyuan sect can no longer hold on and is preparing to flee the strange domain soon. As soon as this news came out, all the surviving cultivators in the market were in an uproar. Various discussions of surprise or ridicule continued to appear, and the surviving cultivators seemed to see a glimmer of hope. Then, the Qingyuan sect seemed to have no intention of covering up at all. They spread the word that anyone in the market could escape with them, and the specific time was to be determined. This news was exactly the same as Wei Hong's speculation. As a result, the surviving monks in the market were suddenly excited and extremely happy. Almost everyone wanted to follow Qingyuan sect to escape from here immediately. They didn't want to live in such a state of anxiety anymore. Even if some people had guessed that Qingyuan sect wanted to drag them to be cannon fodder, those monks had no choice. At this time, they didn't care about so many things. They had to seize the glimmer of hope. We must go. If we stay here, we will die here. That's right. This time we must keep up with Qingyuan sect. Only in this way can we have a chance of survival. Let's be cannon fodder. It's better than staying here and being trapped to death. Yes, even without Qingyuan sect, we can't hold on for half a month. Whether we leave or not, we will die. We might as well give it a try. Many surviving monks were discussing it, and finally they all agreed. It is said that there are only thousands of people left in Qingyuan sect at this time. Compared with the grand scene in the past, it is simply unacceptable. It can be said that this strange fog crisis caused at least half of the sect's strength to be injured or killed in Qingyuan sect, which can be said to be a serious injury. However, the situation in the market is much worse than that of Qingyuan. Now, there may be less than 1,000 monks surviving in the market. Compared with the 20,000 or 30,000 people when they were trapped at the beginning, only 1 in 10 survived. It was so tragic that it was hard to watch. Of course, at least half of the monks who had died long ago died in the fights between groups and the slaughter of other monks. On the contrary, fewer died at the hands of the weird. But after 2 years of persistence, the remaining 800 or 900 people could no longer hold on. Even Qingyuan could no longer hold on, let alone them. Fortunately, Qingyuan did not forget them, which also made the surviving monks excited. For a while, as the news spread, Several black markets in the market did not close immediately. Instead, many more stalls appeared, and each stall was buying daily necessities and xiuxifu, which could deal with weird talismans, at high prices. Unfortunately, in this situation, no one would take out the supplies in their hands for trading. You know, when you enter the strange fog, even one more evil-killing talisman may give you a glimmer of hope. Such a thing, anyone who is not a fool can think of it. For a time, the survivors in the entire market were making various preparations to escape from this place. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 540 Officially Evacuate. 2 months later, the Kingayan sect finally sent a message that they would officially evacuate from the foot of Kingayan Mountain in one day. This news made the survivors who had been waiting for 2 months breathe a sigh of relief. To be honest, they were really afraid that the Kingayan sect was just talking but not really preparing to escape. After receiving the news, all the survivors in the market silently made preparations. Wei Hong and Dingzhu had always been paying attention to the news in the market. After learning the news of the evacuation, they quickly walked out of the underground palace and waited in the small courtyard to observe the situation outside and keep up with the large forces of the Kingayan sect at any time. All the things that could be used in the underground palace were put into the storage bag by Wei Hong. Anyway, he had a lot of storage bags in his hands, so he was not worried about not being able to fit them. This surprised Dingzhu even more. After coming out of the underground palace, Wei Hong immediately sealed the entrance to the tunnel completely. Then, he and Dingzhu each meditated and waited. They had made all the necessary preparations, and now it depended on whether they could really escape. The next day, at dawn, the market town, which was originally like a ghost cave, began to appear with figures. These figures were like ghosts in the early morning. Everyone was silent and did not move with each other. They all gathered silently towards the gate of the market town. These figures were all the survivors in the market town. After hearing the sound, Wei Hong stood up silently and said to Dingzhu, "Ding Dao, let's go too." Okay. Dingzhu immediately stood up and followed. Wei Hong had already put away several formations arranged around the courtyard. No matter what the result of this escape was, he would not be able to return here, so these formations did not need to be kept. After leaving the courtyard, Wei Hong and Dingzhu remained vigilant, and then, like other survivors, they walked silently towards the gate of the market town. Figures continued to emerge and came out from every corner. But Wei Hong glanced at it casually and found that the figures were still a little sparse. Perhaps there were less than 1,000 people in total, or even less. I don't know how many of these people can survive after entering the strange fog. Wei Hong sighed imperceptibly. He didn't care about the life and death of these monks, but this scene made him feel a little emotional. Think about the prosperity of this market a few years ago, and then think about it now that there are only a few hundred people left, and they are almost like zombies. The difference is simply a world of difference. After arriving at the gate of the market, everyone was waiting silently. Wei Hong and Dingzhu moved a little closer and found a corner to take them. At the same time, they looked around with vigilance to avoid accidents at this time. Soon, the sharp-eyed people found that a figure suddenly appeared on Kingayan Mountain, and soon it turned into a long dragon of human figures winding down from the mountain and approaching them. Here it comes. Someone immediately couldn't help but shouting excitedly. Everyone's face was lifted and they all looked up. After an incense stick, the long dragon winding down from the top of Kingayan Mountain arrived in front of the gate of the market. The gate of the market had been opened long ago. Wei Hong could clearly see through the formation that the long dragon was composed of thousands of figures. At first glance, all of them were wearing uniform robes, but the colors were slightly different. These people were the surviving disciples from Kingayan sect. In the center of this long dragon team, there was an old man with a childlike face and white hair, wearing a green robe, holding a white round bead and walking quickly with an expressionless face. This person was completely outstanding among the thousands of Kingayan sect disciples. It was absolutely impossible to ignore him at a glance, and he even attracted people's attention deeply. Could it be that this person is the giant and patriarch of Kingayan sect? Seeing the old man in green robes, Wei Hong couldn't help but whispered secretly. He found that the white round bead held in the hand of this person was emitting a white light shield, covering all the Kingai sect disciples, and resisting the invasion of the strange fog. Moreover, the thousands of Kingai sect disciples, whether they were foundation-building cultivators or key-training cultivators, did not choose to fly with swords or use flying boats, but all walked, just like ordinary people, walking quickly in the mountains and forests. This scene made Wei Hong's mind turn rapidly, as if he understood something, but he was not sure. He understood that since Kingai sect did this, there must be a reason for it. Moreover, each of the thousands of Kingai sect disciples looked solemn, with a little nervousness and uneasiness. Everyone held a magic weapon or a talisman, and stared at the outside of the shield with great vigilance. After coming down from the top of Kingai Mountain, the Kingai sect team did not stop, nor did they say hello to the survivors in the market, but went straight into the strange fog. It seemed that their ability to deliberately approach the market was already a greeting to the survivors in the market. Hurry, hurry up and catch up with the Kingai sect team. Go, go, hurry up. Get out of the market, catch up quickly, and never fall behind. Seeing the backs of the Kingai sect team breaking into the strange fog, the survivors in the market suddenly changed their faces, but they did not dare to neglect it. They hurriedly shouted and ran out of the market, and then quickly chased after the Kingai sect team. Let's go too, pay attention to follow me. Wei Hong called out to Dingzhu, and put 2 magic talismans on his legs and rushed forward quickly. Dingzhu's face was tense, and she followed Wei Hong closely without any neglect. 800 or 900 survivors used various means to quickly break into the strange fog. As soon as he entered the strange fog, Wei Hong felt an indescribable cold and evil feeling tightly lingering around him, making him feel very uncomfortable, as if he might encounter a strange attack at any time. Moreover, the visibility in the strange fog was extremely low. With his eyesight, he could only see things within a range of 10 feet at most. Anything further away was completely blocked by the black fog, and he could not see through it at all. Wei Hong's face was solemn. He first slapped a scorching sun talisman on himself, but found that he could not dispel the cold and evil feeling, and his face could not help but change slightly. Then he ignored it and took a deep breath. He took out a spiritual shield from the storage bag. After using spiritual power to activate it, the spiritual shield turned into a huge transparent shield to firmly protect him and Dingzhu from behind. Then, Wei Hong took out 2 more talismans and handed one to Dingzhu, saying in a deep voice, "Use it immediately, be careful." After that, he threw the talisman, and the talisman instantly turned into golden armor to completely wrap it up, which looked extremely reliable. Dingzhu was overjoyed and hurriedly followed suit, activating the talisman in her hand directly, and also obtained the protection of a golden armor. Chapter 541, Danger lurks on every side. In the strange fog, the Kingai sect's group walked very fast, and with the protection of the sect's treasure, they kept the strange things out and were not attacked for the time being. But the monks following behind, such as Wei Hong, screamed one after another. They encountered the strange things as soon as they entered the strange fog. "Ah! Save me, save me. Fellow Taoist Chu, don't leave. I know you have the evil killing talisman in your hand. Use the talisman to save me. Fuck the strange things, die." Waves of crazy shouts continued to sound in the strange fog, and many monks were directly besieged by the strange things. Wei Hong followed the Kingai sect's group with big strides, and Dingzhu followed closely without daring to fall behind. The spiritual shield protected their backs, and there was a golden armor inside to protect them, which also made Dingzhu feel much more at ease. Only then did she realize how wise it was to follow Wei Hong. Swish! Wei Hong raised his left hand at this time, and her evil killing talisman instantly shut out. Swish! A strong and dazzling light appeared on Wei Hong's left side, and powerful spiritual power fluctuations were continuously released, instantly killing the 2 invisible weirds that were about to approach. Bang! But the weirds in the weird fog seemed to be endless. Before the evil killing talisman burned out, another weird attacked from behind and hit the spiritual shield, making a dull sound. Dingzhu's face changed, and she drew out her flying sword and chopped back. At this time, Dingzhu was also at the peak of the 7th level of key training, so she was not a burden to Wei Hong, but a powerful helper who could give Wei Hong considerable help at critical moments and kill the weird herself. Puff! The flying sword in her hand seemed to have passed through something, and only a puff sound was heard, and then 2 invisible shrill screams sounded in Dingzhu's mind, making her little face pale slightly. This silent cry is actually a unique method of the weird, and it can also be said to be a simplified version of the soul-sucking sound. On the surface, no sound is emitted, but it can directly affect the target's mind, which is hard to defend against. "Hey!" Wei Hong shouted loudly, and Dingzhu came back to her senses instantly. Then he reminded her without turning his head, "Friend Ding, don't fight with a weird. This is a unique method of the weird. You just need to keep your mind focused at all times and you won't be affected. Remember." Dingzhu nodded solemnly, "Thank you for your advice, friend Wei, I understand." With Wei Hong's advice, she naturally couldn't be affected by the silent sound. At this time, Wei Hong continued to perform the fire dragon technique, because the fire dragon technique can not only illuminate the road ahead, but also the fire spell can threaten the weird, making the weird dare not get close. In addition to the protection of the golden armor talisman and the spirit shield, he and Dingzhu were not in any danger for the time being. However, not everyone has the means and strength of Wei Hong. Although the 800 to 900 surviving monks have at least the 6th level of key training, the more than 2 years of being trapped have caused many monks to basically consume all the supplies they can consume. At this time, they are relying on their own cultivation to resist the invasion of the weird. But if ordinary monks do not have means to deal with the weird, such as fire spells or exorcism talismans, or special magic tools, how can they resist the weird that is besieging them all the time? Even their blood and spiritual power attract the weird more. Ah! The young monk who fell behind suddenly let out a shrill scream, and then the whole person suddenly fell straight down, and instantly lost his breath. Obviously he had been poisoned by the weird. The next moment, the young monk suddenly stood up again. However, this person has become pale, his eyes are dull, and his whole body is also glowing with a hint of iron blue, which is clearly possessed by the weird. Swish! The corpse possessed by the strange spirit immediately rushed straight towards a monk not far away. "Get out of my way!" The female cultivator screamed in fear. She subconsciously threw 2 ice cone talismans at the corpse possessed by the strange spirit. Whoosh! 2 ice cones as thick as arms instantly shot towards the corpse, but the corpse with the strange spirit easily dodged them. The next moment, it pounced in front of the female cultivator. The female cultivator screamed wildly in horror, and then kept waving the flying sword in her hand. Puff! A section of the sword tip penetrated directly from the back of the corpse. The female cultivator did not expect it to be so smooth. She was stunned for a moment, but the next moment her face was full of horror. It was because the corpse possessed by the strange spirit did not stop at all. Even though it was pierced by the flying sword, its hands instantly grew sharp claws, and then stabbed the female cultivator in front of it. Swish! This time, it was a pale fingertip that penetrated the body, and the target was also a female cultivator with a confused and unwilling face. The female cultivator was killed with one blow, and the body that was possessed by the strange spirit continued to pounce on another cultivator. On the other side, a middle-aged cultivator wearing a gray robe, holding a sword in one hand and a black bell in the other, was shaking the bell in his hand frantically with sweat on his forehead. Ding ding ding. A series of crisp sounds continued to come from the bell, making it impossible for the invisible stranger around to get close. The middle-aged cultivator was also able to stride forward and closely follow the Kingayan sex group. Judging from the situation, the middle-aged cultivator did not seem to be in danger. But at this time, he was sweating profusely, and his face began to slowly turn pale. He looked too exhausted and seemed unable to hold on for too long. Obviously, the bell in his hand can effectively resist the weirdness, but it also consumes a lot of spiritual power, so that the middle-aged monk felt that he could not hold on for a while. Not good. After a few minutes, the middle-aged monk's face suddenly changed and he exclaimed. It was because the spiritual power in his body had been completely consumed, and he could no longer use the bell in his hand. Regardless of the fact that the middle-aged man was a late-stage cultivator of the 7th level of key training, his reaction was also very fast. He put away the bell with a flip of his palm, and then took out a scorching sun talisman from his storage bag and activated it immediately without hesitation. Buzz! A scorching light like the scorching sun appeared beside him, directly repelling the weirdness that wanted to attack him. But before the middle-aged monk's face was filled with joy, and before the flying sword in his hand could be chopped down, the weird fog behind him condensed into a devil-like ghost face, and pounced on his back fiercely. Ugh! The middle-aged man was completely defenseless, or rather, his defense was completely useless in front of the ghost face formed by the strange fog. The ghost face pounced directly into his body, and the middle-aged man's whole body stiffened instantly. Chapter 542 Despair and Panic. Huh? Wei Hong controlled the fire dragon to fly back and forth around him, lighting the way ahead and also to shock the weird around him. With his current 9th level cultivation, he could sustain himself for a long time if he only used a few spells, so he didn't need to worry about the problem of running out of spiritual power for the time being. And he also followed the principle of saving as much as possible. In addition to using this fire dragon spell, he also used the Fiery Sun Talisman and the Evil Slaying Talisman as much as possible to kill and shock the weird. Dingzhu followed him closely and made great efforts along the way. The two of them were not threatened much, but listening to the various screams coming from the surroundings from time to time, and seeing some cultivators being killed by the weird for no reason, they were really worried and their nerves were always in a tense state. Fellow Taoisting, save your spiritual power. You don't have to save the talismans I gave you. At this time, Wei Hong did not forget to turn around and remind Dingzhu. Don't worry, fellow Taoist Wei, I know. Dingzhu responded with gratitude. Along the way, Wei Hong led the way, using powerful spells and talismans to intimidate the surrounding weirdness, so that the two of them were not affected at all and followed the Kingayan sect. However, the other monks were attacked by various weirdness along the way, and the monks behind them could only use their own means to protect themselves. Even so, many monks were still attacked by weirdness, and screams were heard from time to time, and some corpses possessed by weirdness continued to attack the people around. Wei Hong also encountered 2 corpses possessed by weirdness, but he killed them directly with thunder. After entering the weird fog, they kept running in the mountains and forests. Because the Kingayan sect had the giant and patriarch sitting in front of them, and they also had the treasure of the sect to protect them, ordinary weirdness could not attack the disciples of Kingayan sect at all, and they were all blocked outside the white shield. In this way, the monks following behind were naturally the ones who suffered the most. Countless strange things surrounded the hundreds of surviving monks, attacking and besieging them frantically. As a result, the deeper they went into the forest, the more terrifying the strange things Wei Hong and his companions encountered. Wei Hong and Dingzhu were fine. Wei Hong had enough talismans in his hand and could continue to cope with it, but other monks could not compare with them at all. The deeper they went into the forest, the more casualties the scattered cultivators behind Kingayan sect suffered. An old man with silver hair trembled and took out the last evil-killing talisman, reluctantly activated it, and while protecting himself, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, but his face looked even older. Looking at the team in front of him, and then looking at the endless black fog that filled the forest, the silver-haired old man couldn't help but feel sad, and said with tears in his eyes, "What a sin! I shouldn't have followed the people of Kingayan sect to escape from the market. It seems that my life is going to end here." Obviously, this person has already regretted it. Not only the silver-haired old man, many monks also regretted it at this time. Damn it, Kingayan sect is really not a good bird. If we escape with them, we will die. It turns out that they use us as cannon fodder. We shouldn't follow the people of Kingayan sect. Yes, Kingayan sect deserves 1,000 cuts. They want to use our lives to fill it, but they are not injured at all. I regret it so much. If I had stayed in the market, maybe I could have survived. Now there are only 400 or 500 monks left who followed Kingayan sect to escape. It can be said that there were heavy casualties. More than half of them were directly lost, making the remaining monks regret why they followed the team of Kingayan sect. They are all struggling to hold on at this time. If they are not careful, they will follow the footsteps of other monks. However, the group of people from Kingayan sect were unharmed under the protection of the giant and patriarch, which formed a sharp contrast with the monks who suffered heavy casualties. Such a scene naturally made the surviving monks feel very unbalanced. But they had no way out. Kingayan sect was a lean camel that was bigger than a horse, not to mention that there was a giant and patriarch sitting in charge. They were not something that these casual cultivators could afford to provoke. Even a random foundation building cultivator could slaughter them. Therefore, no matter what these casual cultivators had in their minds, they could only hold it in their hearts and dare not complain at all. Even though they knew that Kingayan sect was using them as cannon fodder, they had to grit their teeth and follow for a glimmer of hope. Now, even if they regretted it, they could not turn back. They could only continue to hold on until they broke out of the strange fog. In order to avoid attracting too much attention, Wei Hong began to keep a low profile at this time. He would not use the evil-killing talisman if he could, but used magic tools and spells to protect himself as much as possible. He knew very well that those cultivators who held on tightly behind would definitely try their best to find a chance for themselves. He had used quite a few talismans along the way, and he might have been targeted by someone. I really want to see if there is anyone who dares to take action. Wei Hong sneered in his heart, and he was already prepared. Led by the Kingayan sect, they continued to run in the forest, while Wei Hong and Ding Zhu followed closely. As they continued to go deeper, the night gradually fell. They were originally shrouded in the black mist. As the night fell, the surrounding environment became even darker and harder to see, making people feel more and more uneasy. At this time, the people of Kingayan sect slowly stopped under the instructions of the giant and patriarch, and then chose a spacious area in the forest as a place to rest. Obviously, the people of Kingayan sect should not plan to continue moving forward in the dark. At this moment, for some reason, as the night fell, the weirdness in the mist slowly disappeared, which surprised Wei Hong and others. Let's go over there and rest for a while. Wei Hong pointed to the side of the Kingayan sect's habitat and walked over. Ding Zhu naturally followed without any hesitation. With Wei Hong taking the lead, the remaining 300 or 400 casual cultivators in the market also followed and came to the Kingayan sect's habitat not far away to stop and rest. It was already night, so they could only spend the night in the forest. Why is it that the weirdness in the night has become quieter? Wei Hong was puzzled and full of doubts. According to their previous experience in the market, the night should be the time when the weirdness is most likely to appear. But now that they are deep in the weird fog, the situation is reversed, which makes Wei Hong quite puzzled. After thinking about it, he still can't get an answer. Forget it, it's better to think about it. This way, we can rest for a night. With this idea in mind, Wei Hong sat down cross-legged in the forest regardless of the dirt. Chapter 543 Don't Provoke Me Again. Bang, bang, bang. The forest was full of people sitting on the ground. However, all the cultivators who survived until now were shrewd and alert. Even when they were resting in the forest, even when they were sitting on the ground, they almost subconsciously kept at least 3 meters away from others, so as to avoid any unexpected situation that would leave them no time and space to react. Many of the cultivators still maintained the power groups they had formed in the market before, and the survivors of their major power groups all gathered together. There were also some independent cultivators who were either alone or relying on each other in groups of 3 or 2. Wei Hong and Ding Zhu were just one of them, and they did not attract attention. If it were not for the wrong occasion, Wei Hong would have set up formations around him to protect himself for fear of attracting the attention of Kingayan sect and other independent cultivators. Even if he could not set up a formation, he was secretly on guard, holding 3 evil-killing talismans in his hands from time to time, and his eyes were also very obscure and constantly scanning the surroundings. While he was looking around vigilantly, he whispered to Ding Zhu, "Fellow Taoisting, those strange creatures suddenly became silent at night for some reason, and did not take the opportunity to attack us. We don't know whether this is good or bad, and we must prepare for the worst. In addition, you need to pay attention to the monks around you. I think they will cause some trouble later." After saying this, Wei Hong began to close his eyes and rest. Ding Zhu was slightly stunned, but naturally did not question it, so she immediately looked at the monks around her with an extremely vigilant look. She did not understand what Wei Hong meant by causing some trouble. At this moment, the only 300 or 400 monks left in the forest gathered in 2s and 3s. These people were also like Wei Hong and Ding Zhu, with vigilance in their eyes, and they were discussing something in a low voice. Some of them even had a fierce look in their eyes. Ding Zhu saw that there were 5 monks gathered not far in front of her. One of the middle-aged monks seemed to be talking excitedly, but he deliberately lowered his voice, so Ding Zhu did not hear what he said. After a while, the 4 people around the middle-aged monk shook their heads, and their expressions seemed very determined, which made the middle-aged man more excited, and his face was also full of anger. Moreover, such scenes appeared around one after another, and some groups even gathered together. Many monks ran back and forth in the crowd, but they were basically rejected and shook their heads. Only then did Ding Zhu understand that those people clearly wanted to make some transactions or exchange materials during the rest time. Obviously, during the previous journey, it can be said that most of the monks' accumulated talismans or other means to deal with the weirdness have been consumed by more than half, or even completely consumed. At this time, they naturally want to exchange for more materials such as the evil-killing talisman to ensure that they can continue to survive. However, in this situation, no matter who it is, no matter whether they have more evil-killing talismans and scorching sun talismans, no one will be stupid enough to trade the materials in their hands, which is clearly accelerating death. Therefore, all the monks who are anxious to trade hide a snag. Even if they offered a sky-high price, no one would trade the evil-killing talisman to them. Okay. At this time, Dingzu heard a sturdy monk on the left suddenly laugh in anger. You don't want me to live, right? If so, then you don't want to live either. After saying that, the sturdy monk stared at an old man next to him with a fierce and evil look on his face. He strode towards the old man, and then said with a grim smile, Old man, you are shameless. You don't want to trade the evil-killing talisman to me, right? Well, don't blame me for being rude. At this time, the sturdy monk didn't care about so much. He pinched his fingers and 2 ice cones shot out. Then he took out a flying knife and chopped it down at the old man. Obviously, the sturdy monk was already a little unbalanced. If the transaction failed, he was ready to rob. After all, if he didn't have the evil-killing talisman later, he would probably not be able to get out of the strange fog. What do you want to do? The old man's face changed drastically. First, he raised his hand and released a flying sword to block the flying knife of the sturdy monk, and then he stepped on his feet and moved sideways, directly avoiding the 2 ice cones. What are you doing? It's very simple. Either you trade me a few evil-killing talismans, or you die. The sturdy monk became more and more crazy, and rushed towards the old man with a grin. He chopped with a flying knife in his hand, and shot out 3 earth-thort talismans with a raised hand, while muttering something. A wooden wall blocked the direction of the old man's retreat. Don't think that you are easy to bully because of your high cultivation. The old man smiled coldly. He continued to move sideways, dodging the earth-thort talisman while shooting out a fine golden light from his hand, heading straight for the sturdy monk's face, and then activated another talisman, and then he held the flying sword and wandered around the sturdy monk. The fine golden light was extremely fast, and the sturdy monk only had time to turn his head slightly, and the golden light flashed past his ear and disappeared directly. Ah! The sturdy monk suddenly let out a short scream, then covered his ears and said angrily, Flying needles? You actually have a flying needle magic weapon. At this time, the ear that the sturdy monk covered was bleeding, and it was obvious that he had been injured by the flying needle. If the sturdy monk had not tilted his head slightly, he might have been killed by the old man. Thinking of this, the sturdy monk broke out in a cold sweat. For a moment, the look he gave the old man became extremely resentful and fierce, but he did not dare to act rashly anymore. Obviously, the old man was not someone he could easily defeat. Humph, don't provoke me again. Seeing this, the old man did not continue to press, but calmed down after a long distance. But the sturdy monk was unwilling to give up, and turned his head to look at another monk. Since he had already made a move, he was unwilling to return empty-handed. At the same time, not only the strong monk, but also more than 10 people had the same idea. They began to look for targets in the mountains and forests. Anyone with weaker cultivation or a lot of evil-killing talismans on hand was targeted by them. Those people showed vicious intentions, or threatened, or forced, or even directly robbed, just to get some evil-killing talismans. These monks who took action were all those who had few evil-killing talismans on hand, and some had even used up all of them. In this environment, the evil-killing talisman was the best way they could find to deal with the weirdness. If there was no evil-killing talisman, they would definitely not be able to hold on for the second half of the journey. For the sake of their own lives, at this moment these monks had already put aside all their worries, and only thought about how to survive, without caring about the lives of others. Chapter 544 Watch coldly. Weakness is the original sin. At this moment, this sentence was completely concrete. Not all cultivators have powerful means like the old man just now, which can suppress the actions of others coveting themselves. Many cultivators who are only at the 7th level of key training, facing the coercion of cultivators at a higher level, either fight to the death or bite their teeth and accept it, and then hand over a few evil-killing talismans to save their lives. For all this, Wei Hong has been watching coldly. And Dingzu finally understood at this time that Wei Hong had already anticipated what was happening now. Dingzu's mouth opened slightly, and she still felt a little sad when she saw what was happening in the forest. She turned her head to look at Wei Hong, and just when she was about to ask, she found that Wei Hong's eyes narrowed slightly at this time, and flashed a terrifying cold light. Dingzu's face changed slightly, and she immediately followed Wei Hong's line of sight and saw that the strong cultivator who had just failed to rob the old man was walking towards them with a grim smile on his face, obviously targeting Wei Hong. Because Wei Hong used the evil slaying talisman and the scorching sun talisman many times along the way, even if he tried to keep a low profile, he was still seen by some people, and the sturdy monk was one of them. With a pressing momentum, the sturdy monk walked to Wei Hong one zang away, grinned and asked, "My fellow Taoist, I won't say any more nonsense. Give me a few evil-slaying talismans and I'll leave immediately. I will never bother you anymore." Obviously, after the experience of facing the old monk just now, the sturdy monk did not dare to act rashly again. He did not know Wei Hong's background at this time. Wei Hong had been using the breath-retaining technique to restrain his own breath. Except for the monks above the foundation establishment stage who could see through his cultivation, the monks of the same level naturally could not detect it clearly. However, Wei Hong just glanced at the sturdy monk with a look as if he was looking at a dead person, and then said coldly, "Get out. Or die." The sturdy monk's face suddenly changed. First his face was full of coldness, and then it turned red and white. He didn't expect Wei Hong to be so arrogant, and didn't take him seriously at all. Even the old man didn't dare to tell him to get out, but Wei Hong treated him like a pig or a dog. Okay. The sturdy monk's face was livid. In front of so many people, Wei Hong told him to get out. Even if he wanted to retreat, he couldn't. At this time, he couldn't help but laugh angrily and said, "You are so arrogant, then I want to see where you get the confidence from." After that, the sturdy monk attacked Wei Hong directly without saying a word. He roared, first threw out 3 water arrow talismans, and then pinched his hands to cast a spell, obviously ready to strike first. But Wei Hong did not make any move. He just looked up and glanced at him. 3 water arrows also shot out, smashing the 3 water arrow talismans directly. Then 3 sharp earth spikes broke out from the ground under the feet of the sturdy monk and stabbed straight up. That was not all. Just as the sturdy monk's face changed drastically and he withdrew his spells to avoid the earth spikes in a panic, 4 wooden spikes stabbed fiercely from 4 directions. The sturdy monk was completely passive at this time. Just because the casting speed was a little slow, he lost the opportunity to cast spells directly. He was forced into a mess by the spells cast by Wei Hong. At this time, the sturdy monk no longer had the momentum to weigh Wei Hong just now. He was forced to dodge left and right by Wei Hong's spells. If he was not careful, he might be injured, which made the sturdy monk regretful. But Wei Hong did not intend to give him a chance to regret. Since the sturdy monk dared to take him as a target for snatching, he did not mind using the sturdy monk to establish his prestige, so that all the troubles in the future could be avoided. Thinking of this, Wei Hong's eyes flashed with coldness, and he pinched his hands and urged his spiritual power. 2 thigh-thick vines covered with barbed thorns instantly broke out of the ground, and unexpectedly wrapped around the legs of the strong monk, trapping him tightly. In the next breath, several golden threads appeared around the strong monk, and quickly cut across him. Not good. The strong monk's face was already pale when his feet were entangled and trapped. He subconsciously struggled twice, but found that he couldn't break free immediately, so he first slapped 2 Vajra talismans on his body, and then took out a flying sword to cut the vines on the ground fiercely. As for the golden threads that cut across, he naturally noticed them, but he thought that he could get out of this place immediately after breaking free from the vines, so he didn't pay much attention to it for the time being, and he didn't think that those golden threads could break the defense of the Vajra talisman. But at this time, a fire dragon suddenly appeared out of thin air, shaking its head and tail and slamming down at the strong monk. Boom. No. The sturdy monk had no time to react and was hit directly by the fire dragon technique. 2 golden threads also crossed over at this time, instantly cutting the sturdy monk who had been burned black in the middle. The sturdy monk only had time to let out a shrill scream before he was completely killed, and then he was completely dead. This scream attracted the attention of almost all the casual cultivators in the forest. When they saw that the sturdy monk of the 8th level of key training could not hold on for a few rounds in Wei Hong's hands and was directly killed, all the casual cultivators in the market were shocked. Those monks who were about to continue robbing were also shocked and hurriedly stopped. No one expected that the sturdy monk did not die in the first half of escaping from the strange domain, but was buried here because he provoked someone he should not have provoked during the rest. Such a result made everyone look at each other in dismay, and the eyes they looked at Wei Hong were also a little frightened, and even many people began to dodge their eyes. Who dares to provoke such a ruthless person who kills people directly without saying anything? On the other hand, Wei Hong seemed to have done something insignificant. His face did not change at all, but his eyes were still cold, and then he slowly scanned the surroundings. Facing Wei Hong's fascinating eyes, many cultivators lowered their heads and dared not look directly at him. Wei Hong knew at this time that his purpose of establishing his prestige had been achieved. Even the disciples of King Guyan sect not far away were attracted by the fighting here, but they stopped paying attention after watching for a while. Ding Zhu, who was next to him, was also pale at this time, as if she was frightened. She did not expect Wei Hong to be so decisive and kill people as soon as he said it. He was not as kind as he usually showed. Fortunately, I have the protection of fellow Taoist Wei, otherwise I really don't know if I can escape. Wei Hong's thunderous means made Ding Zhu feel quite fortunate. If Wei Hong had not been protecting her all the way, Ding Zhu would have been swallowed up by the weirdness like other cultivators. For a moment, because of Wei Hong's act of killing people to calm the situation, the forest suddenly became quiet and the scene seemed quite strange. Chapter 545, Companion, a Burden. The forest was quiet. It seemed that Wei Hong's killing deterrence made those cultivators who wanted to continue to snatch the evil killing talisman subconsciously stop, and they dared not act rashly again, fearing that they would encounter a ruthless person like Wei Hong. So the 300 or 400 casual cultivators in the forest quieted down again, and the atmosphere of conflict and plunder also dissipated. But when Wei Hong sat down again as if nothing had happened, many forces and groups looked at him with burning and desire. Dao Wei is so decisive, I admire you. After Wei Hong sat down, Ding Zhu beside him immediately gave him a thumbs up to express her admiration. Wei Hong waved his hand nonchalantly and said, he is just looking for death, Dao Ding, don't be careless, and you still need to be vigilant at all times. Dao Wei, don't worry, I won't. Ding Zhu nodded. Wei Hong said no more, and leaned against a big tree again to close his eyes and rest. After a while, he opened his eyes again. It was only because several people came towards Wei Hong at this time, and there was no intention to cover up. Ding Zhu was nervous for a moment, but when she saw the hesitation and fear on those people's faces, she couldn't help but relax secretly, just maintaining the most basic vigilance. Wei Hong frowned. He didn't expect that someone would dare to approach him at this time. It didn't look like they were ready to attack him. When those people walked 2 meters away, Wei Hong frowned and said, Daoists, stop. If you have something to say, talk about it. If you don't have anything to say, don't get close to it, so as to avoid misunderstandings. Haha, this Taoist friend, please don't misunderstand. Among the 5 people, the slightly old man in the middle stopped subconsciously, and then smiled awkwardly. I don't know what this Taoist friend's name is. I'm Han Zichen. I'm Qin Tian. Wei Hong stared at the people opposite for a long time, and then he coldly spit out a name. It was naturally impossible to reveal his real name at this time, so he made up a name casually. Ding Zhu's face did not change, but she laughed secretly in her heart. The old man named Han Zichen hurriedly bowed and said, it turns out to be fellow Taoist kin. I'm honored. Stop talking nonsense. Wei Hong waved his hand impatiently and said in a cold voice, fellow Taoist, just say what you want to say. I don't like beating around the bush. Yes, yes, yes. Hans Hitchen smiled awkwardly and said after hesitating for a moment, it's like this. I and these 4 fellow Taoists have come here from the market together and supported each other. We can get here thanks to the concerted efforts of the 5 of us. But we don't know what dangers the next journey will bring. Therefore, the 5 of us would like to invite fellow Taoist kin and his friend to join us. We can help each other and this will greatly increase our chances of survival. What do you think, fellow Taoist kin? Obviously, these 5 people clearly wanted to win over Wei Hong to join them. After seeing Wei Hong's powerful strength, there are naturally many people who have such thoughts, but Han Zichen and the other 5 are the fastest. Others may still regret secretly that they were robbed by Han Zichen and others. But Wei Hong shook his head and refused without thinking, no need, fellow Taoists, please go back. Qin already has a companion, so there is no need to mention the talk of companionship. What a joke, with Wei Hong's strength and various means prepared, even if he takes Ding Zhu with him, he is not sure that he can escape. Now he has to go with Han Zichen and the other 5. Isn't that a burden to himself? They want to find a backer, but Wei Hong is not that stupid. Don't say that Hans Hitching and the others just want to get something for nothing, and they didn't give any benefits. Even if they offered a sky-high price, Wei Hong would never agree. At this time, it is good enough to ensure that you can escape successfully. If you still want to take others with you, it is definitely a brain-dead operation. As for Dingzhu, it is naturally different. She had Bai Ling, a treasure-hunting mouse, in her hand. Bai Ling was not only born with a keen sense of smell, but also had a strange talent that could find a ray of hope in the dark. Maybe if they wanted to find a chance of survival in the second half of the journey, they would have to rely on Bai Ling, a treasure-hunting mouse. Therefore, even if it was a little troublesome, Wei Hong had to take Dingzhu with him. However, Hans Hitching and the others seemed to be completely unable to figure out these problems. When they heard Wei Hong's refusal, Hans Hitching's face suddenly became awkward, and there was also a hint of anger and gloom. "Fellow Taoist kin, why don't you think about it again? The five of us are not bad at cultivation. We support each other and will never hold you back." Hans Hitching continued to persuade him with some reluctance. However, Wei Hong directly stretched out his hand to stop him and said, "No need to say more, fellow Taoist, please go back." Seeing that Wei Hong's attitude was so firm and there was no room for negotiation, Hans Hitching and the other five looked ugly, but when they thought of his blatant killing just now, they did not dare to say anything more and turned around and retreated to their original positions. Seeing that Hans Hitching and his five companions did not seem to have succeeded in winning over Wei Hong, the eyes of some other groups immediately lit up, realizing that they seemed to still have a chance. So after Hans Hitching and his five companions returned, two more waves of people came to Wei Hong. But without exception, in the face of such unrealistic solicitations and invitations, Wei Hong rejected them all with an extremely indifferent attitude, and did not give them any chance at all. Dingzhu, who was watching from the side, felt fortunate again in her heart. Fortunately, Bai Ling, the treasure-hunting mouse in her hand, was very powerful and was able to find the underground palace excavated by Wei Hong 2 years ago. Fortunately, she was decisive enough to take out the family-inherited side door foundation building method to let Wei Hong shelter her. Fortunately, she had always placed herself in a very positive position. At least she could still be of some help to Wei Hong. If not, how could she still sit safely in this mountain forest? After those waves of people who tried to win over Wei Hong left, Dingzhu couldn't help but sneer. "It's so funny, fellow Taoist Wei, do you look so easy to fool? Why do those people only want to get something for nothing? They don't even want to offer a little bit of benefit, and they can't even make big promises, but they still want to win over fellow Taoist Wei as their backer. Are they out of their minds?" Hearing this, Wei Hong looked at Dingzhu with a little surprise. Regarding Dingzhu's evaluation, Wei Hong shook his head helplessly and thought, people are just greedy. They want to seize all kinds of opportunities at this time, but they don't think about what they rely on. What Dingzhu could see clearly, those monks who came to win him over might not be able to see clearly, but those people were not sincere, and they didn't want to pay any price at this time, so as not to reduce their chances of survival. They all just want to get something for free, and don't want to pay. How could such a good thing be theirs? You are still calculating until now, you'd better wait to die. Wei Hong looked at those waves of monks with the eyes of looking at a dead person, and sneered in his heart. Chapter 546 Linquan Mountain. The next morning, just after dawn, the black mist surged again. Wei Hong was very sensitive to the strangeness that had been silent for a night and was coming again. "Be careful, the strangeness is coming again," Wei Hong shouted to Dingzhu beside him. After that, he sacrificed the spirit shield again, and gave Dingzhu a golden armor talisman to activate it. Then, holding the evil killing talisman in one hand, he used the fire dragon technique with the other hand to directly sweep away the strangeness that wanted to approach and invade, and firmly protected him and Dingzhu. At this time, the group of people from Qingyuan sect also stood up and set off again under the protection of the giant and ancestor. Wei Hong and Dingzhu did not dare to neglect and hurried to catch up. Seeing this, the casual cultivators in the market who had rested in the forest for a night were naturally panicked. Some people were not prepared and could not react in time. They were taken advantage of by the strangeness and were swallowed directly. Several people were also possessed and had no breath. Obviously, they had died. Other monks shouted to be careful, and then used methods to protect themselves, and then hurriedly followed the pace of the Qingyuan sect, fearing that they would be abandoned if they were a step slower. With yesterday's experience, The 300 or 400 surviving casual monks in the market obviously have rich experience in dealing with it. The monks who can survive until now are not mediocre, so after setting off again, the screams and roars are much less. Many monks are rushing on their way silently, and at the same time they are saving spiritual power as much as possible. If they encounter strange attacks, they will use various methods to deal with them. In short, compared with yesterday, the situation seems to be much better. But Wei Hong felt a little uneasy and puzzled. Strange, isn't it said that there are many dangers in this strange fog? If it is only this level, why did the foundation building cultivator who was in charge of the market before encounter an accident? If it is only this level, even I am sure to escape. Why did King Ironman wait until now to escape? Our group is so conspicuous, why don't there seem to be many strange attacks? Where are they? And what about the giant tree monster before? Where is it? Is it still seriously injured? Wei Hong's mind flashed with various doubts, and these doubts also made his uneasiness gradually become stronger. He looked around with a vigilant face, but did not find anything unusual. The strange attack today is not much different from yesterday, so he and Dingzu can naturally deal with it easily. After more than half a day, nothing unusual happened. Wei Hong even secretly reflected on whether he was too suspicious. At night on this day, the strangeness subsided again. The Kingainman group and the surviving market cultivators stayed in the forest again to rest and prepare to set off again at dawn. Because the strange fog at night was much thicker than that during the day, coupled with the cover of the night, no one could see more than 10 feet away. Even if the spells of light or fireball, which could illuminate the night, flew into the strange fog, they would be swallowed up immediately, and not a single light could be transmitted, as if there was a great terror around that could swallow everything. As a result, they naturally did not dare to take the risk of moving again. Fortunately, the strangeness in the night had subsided for some reason and no longer took the opportunity to attack these monks, which gave the remaining more than 300 casual cultivators in the market a chance to breathe, otherwise they would be exhausted to death. In the forest, there was no talk all night. With the experience of last night, no one made any move this night, but rested quietly and waited for the arrival of dawn. Everyone knew that they had walked in the forest for 2 days, and according to the distance, they should have walked a long way. At least they had passed through most of the area covered by the strange fog, and believed that it would not take long to completely escape the strange fog. Of course, this was also because they were led by the Kingayan sect. They took the shortest straight line all the way. Otherwise, it was unknown how long it would take to get out of the strange fog. The third day. The sky was getting brighter, and the strange fog that was as thick as a black curtain at night also faded a lot. The Kingayan sect got up again and continued to run in the original direction. They did not suffer any casualties in the past 2 days. Under the protection of the treasure of the sect, all the disciples of the Kingayan sect were safe. But Wei Hong, who was following behind the Kingayan sect at this time, was keenly aware that the face of the giant and ancestor walking in the middle seemed to be a little wrong, and as time went by, his face became more and more solemn. This made Wei Hong's heart tremble, and the original uneasiness became stronger. "Friendling, if anything happens, you must remember to follow me closely, and don't care about anything else." Suppressing the uneasiness in his heart, Wei Hong turned his head with a solemn face and told Lingzhu. He had already noticed something wrong, and maybe something terrible would happen later. Dingzhu was a little surprised. She wanted to ask a question, but when she saw Wei Hong's solemn expression, she tensed up and hurriedly replied, "I understand. Don't worry, fellow Taoist Wei." Because of Wei Hong's instructions, Dingzhu was also alert to the top. It took more than 2 hours to walk. There were constant strange attacks along the way, but no other abnormal things happened. Wei Hong and others were still able to hold on. And as time went by, everyone found that the fog surrounding them began to become lighter and lighter, and their vision could see farther and farther. Through the strange fog, they could even see the beautiful scenery in the distance. Those places were not covered by the strange fog. Haha, it's almost there, we're almost out of the strange fog. Haha, did you see that? That seems to be the direction of Linquan Mountain, which is not covered by the strange fog. We are saved. Finally, we are almost out of the strange fog. We are saved, haha. It's not easy. Fortunately, Kingayan sect led the way, otherwise how could we escape from the strange fog? When all the casual cultivators in the market saw the scenery ahead that was not covered by the strange fog, they all screamed and laughed in ecstasy. Even the thousands of disciples of King Iron sect were full of joy at this time, and they all breathed a sigh of relief, as if they had vomited out all the worries accumulated in the past 3 days, and it seemed that a bright future was just around the corner. Only the giant and patriarch of King Iron sect had a solemn face, and even looked a little nervous. Wei Hong's uneasiness reached its peak at this moment. There was no joy on his face, but he was on the highest level of alert in his heart, and even made the worst plan. As the saying goes, a journey of 100 miles begins with a single step. This last section of the journey is the most difficult. Wei Hong absolutely did not believe that the countless strange things in the strange fog would let more than 1,000 monks leave this place so easily. Perhaps the real terror has not yet arrived. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 547 Wang Zhuangdalu. At this moment, something unexpected happened. The mist, which had been getting thinner and thinner, suddenly became as dark as ink without any sign. It was still noon, but the dark mist that surged like a tide was like a layer of black curtain, completely covering Wei Hong and others, and even the sky was covered by it. As for those areas that seemed to be not far away and were not covered by the strangeness, they had already been completely blocked. The change of the strange mist can be said to be without any sign, but it was extremely fast and it was all completed in almost an instant, leaving everyone unable to react. The face of the giant and ancestor of King Iron sect instantly became extremely cold. He subconsciously slapped the storage bag on his waist, and a fist-sized purple bell immediately appeared in his hand. Then he raised his hand, and the purple bell immediately swelled in the wind and turned directly into a purple bell more than 10 feet high. The purple bell turned into a purple streamer and flew above the head of the giant and ancestor, and then the purple bell suddenly shook violently. Ding ding ding. The huge bell sound spread rapidly around the purple bell. The sound of the bell turned into a real sound wave, which caused ripples in the air. It was like the sound of a yellow bell, which was deafening. Obviously, this purple bell should be the treasure of the King Iron sect, the Jiang bell. As the terrifying sound waves, which were as real as substance, spread rapidly around, the dark mist that was like a black curtain was instantly shattered by the sound waves and was squeezed out step by step by the terrifying sound waves, making it temporarily unable to spread. Go! The giant and ancestor of King Iron sect shouted with an ugly face. He clapped the white round bead in his hand, and the white shield covering the thousands of disciples of King Iron sect suddenly became twice as thick. Hearing the order of the giant and ancestor, many disciples of King Iron sect dared not neglect it. They hurriedly quickened their pace and ran wildly in the set direction. It was not until then that the scattered cultivators in the market who were left behind finally reacted. A young cultivator who was left behind and could not react in time was directly enveloped by the dark strange fog. Everyone only heard a shrill scream, and then there was no movement. Obviously, once touched or swallowed by the dark strange fog, it would be a situation of no return. The fate of the young cultivator was enough to make it clear. Such a scene immediately frightened the more than 300 scattered cultivators in the market and made their faces pale. Hurry, run. Hurry up and catch up with the people of King Iron sect. Hurry up. It's over, the strange is coming, hurry up. Wait for me, seniors of King Iron sect, wait for us. All the scattered cultivators in the market were so scared that their hair stood on end, and they all ran quickly towards the direction of King Iron sect. At this moment, even a fool would have understood that there was a big change in the strange fog, waiting for them to fall into the trap. Even though the purple yang bell was constantly vibrating and emitting waves of terrifying sound waves, the dark mist that was squeezed out was still surging wildly. Countless strange things gathered into a strange tide, which was constantly impacting the purple sound waves, swallowing up the sound waves, and then spreading again. Wei Hong's eyelids twitched wildly. He didn't expect that the uneasiness in his heart would really become a reality. Go, follow me. Wei Hong roared, and his figure quickly rushed forward. He didn't want to fall into the terrifying strange tide behind him. Maybe he couldn't even hold on for a breath and would disappear. Dingzu's face was pale with fear, and she followed Wei Hong closely. It was not until now that she understood what Wei Hong had repeatedly warned her before. Help! Help me! At this time, the strange tide that was originally blocked by the purple yang bell began to spread rapidly again, and the monks who fell behind let out a terrifying scream. No one could escape. As long as they fell into the strange tide, they would be swallowed up in an instant. Wei Hong's scalp was tingling, and his feet burst out with unprecedented speed. He had the same idea as King Aiman, that is, to escape in the shortest possible time. After all, this place was not far from the edge of the strange fog. If he could escape, he would not have to worry about being surrounded by the strange tide. As for those casual cultivators behind, who would care so much? And Wei Hong did not forget to glance back and forth while running, trying to see if he could find a way to escape. At this time, all the people in King Aiman had solemn faces, and everyone was ready to go, ready for battle. Some people even had white fingers holding the magic weapon, which showed their inner tension. The giant and ancestor of King Aiman opened his mouth and spit out a golden flying sword, wandering around him to protect him. But as the King Aiman group walked forward, the strange tide became more and more terrifying, one wave after another, madly blocking their way forward, causing their escape speed to slowly slow down. The giant and ancestor frowned, and when he was about to use some magic weapon to continue to dispel the strange tide, his face suddenly changed drastically, and he raised his hand and shot out more black light. It was a black tortoise shell, and in the blink of an eye it became the size of a house and firmly covered the head of the giant and ancestor. Boom! An extremely thick tree trunk arm slammed hard on the black tortoise shell released by the King insect giant and ancestor, making a shocking sound. This extremely thick tree trunk arm appeared very abruptly, and no one except the giant and ancestor could react. The next moment, a terrifying figure thousands of feet high condensed out of the strange fog, and it seemed that countless strange long black shadows were waving around the huge figure, which was daunting. Wei Hong's face also changed drastically. He naturally saw that it was clearly the giant tree demon that had appeared once before, and the tree trunk arm that just slapped down was just one of the countless arms on its body. He immediately grabbed Ling Zhu tightly and dared not take another step forward. Because the giant tree demon was blocking their way forward, the purpose was naturally to prevent them from leaving the strange fog. Who would have thought that in the last section of the journey to leave the strange fog, the terrifying giant tree demon that could even fight against a giant and patriarch would appear again? It was clear that it didn't want them to leave. In such a situation and such a formation, Wei Hong would never believe it if he said that the giant tree demon was not specially prepared for them. No wonder there were not many strange things in the past 2 days. It turned out that they were waiting here. No wonder I felt so uneasy. It turned out that the biggest disaster was waiting here. Looking at the terrifying figure of the giant tree demon, Wei Hong murmured with a wry smile. Chapter 548 Life and Death Crisis. The cultivators were horrified. The reappearance of the giant tree demon made most of the cultivators despair. In addition, the strange tides were still surging like rolling waves. At this moment, it was as if the god of death was waving at everyone, causing all the cultivators to panic. The giant and ancestor of King insect had no choice but to take action. He pointed his hand, and the golden flying sword that was wandering beside him instantly shot towards the giant tree demon. At the same time, he threw the white round bead in his hand to a middle-aged cultivator, and then shouted, "Go, I will be responsible for holding this tree demon. Renewin, you will be responsible for leading all the disciples out of the strange area. Don't worry, I have my own way to get out." Before he finished speaking, the giant and ancestor of King insect had already flown towards the giant tree demon. The strength of this giant tree demon in the strange fog was even stronger than that of an ordinary giant and stage cultivator. He was the only one present who could hold back the tree demon. If he did not take action to resist the tree demon, then the thousands of disciples of King insect might all have to die here. Therefore, this giant and cultivator had to take action and dared not take action. The giant and cultivator immediately took action to entangle the giant tree demon, and used the flying sword magic weapon and the Xiang bell one after another. He also threw out a few talismans from time to time, or cast a few spells, just to hold the giant tree demon tightly. In fact, the giant and ancestor of King insect was seriously injured after the last fight with a giant tree demon. He was not healed at this time, but facing the coercion of the giant tree demon, he could only take action with injuries. The King insect disciple called Rinatun did not dare to neglect it at all. After taking the white round bead, he immediately injected spiritual power into it, trying to keep the shield intact, and then continued to run forward madly with his disciples. Without the sound waves from the purple yang bell, the surrounding strange tides could no longer be contained, and their rush towards the Kingai insect and the surviving market cultivators, making everyone pale and desperate. Go, go. Evil killing talismans, take out all the remaining evil killing talismans. Don't hide them, it's all over if you don't take action. Quick, run away. Those market cultivators were all scared and screamed, and they all took out their best tricks to protect themselves from being swallowed by the strange tide. Dingzu was already pale with fear, and she asked Wei Hong, trembling all over, Wei, what should we do now? Don't talk, follow me. Wei Hong's face was solemn, and he pulled Dingzu over and ran to the left. As he ran away, he reached out and took out a thick stack of evil killing talismans from his storage bag. With a flick of his hand, dozens of evil killing talismans were cast out without hesitation, protecting him and Dingzu firmly and temporarily blocking the approach of the strange tide. Got it. After running forward for a distance, Wei Hong's eyes suddenly lit up. Sure enough, there was a cave standing there a few dozen feet ahead. He had just observed the existence of this cave, but he didn't dare to confirm it. Now he finally put his mind at ease, because this cave is likely to be the place where he and Dingzu can survive. Wei Hong threw out dozens of evil killing talismans again, and relying on the powerful power of the talismans, he successfully rushed into the cave with Dingzu. Go in, quickly. Wei Hong turned around and threw out more than 10 evil killing talismans, temporarily blocking the approach of the strange tide, and then shouted loudly to Dingzu without looking back, and then quickly took out several things from the storage bag with both hands, which were a formation plate and several formation flags. Dingzu obediently walked to the depths of the cave, while Wei Hong nailed several formation flags to specific positions with a flick of his hand, and then used his spiritual power to drive the formation plate, and a white light curtain immediately rose up, firmly protecting the entrance of the cave. This formation was the Four Symbols Formation. After quickly setting up the Four Symbols Formation, Wei Hong never looked outside again, and turned around and ran quickly to the depths of the cave, because he believed that this defensive formation should be able to buy him enough time. Quickly catching up with Dingzu, the two of them came to the depths of the cave. Wei Hong took out his flying sword and started digging fiercely at the ground. While digging, he said to Dingzu, hurry up, if you don't want to die, dig together quickly. Only by hiding underground can you really avoid a strange fog. That's right, the reason why he rushed into this cave at all costs was to dig a tunnel in the cave to avoid a strange fog. Because Wei Hong knew that it was difficult for the strange fog to spread underground. In this case, he would naturally choose to take refuge underground. This was the only way he could think of to escape. Any other choice could not guarantee that he could stop the swallowing of the strange tide. Dingzu's eyes lit up instantly when she heard this, and she immediately thought of the time in the underground palace before, so without Wei Hong saying anything, she immediately picked up the flying sword and started digging frantically. Now this tunnel is related to the life and death of the two of them, and no one dared not to fight. With the crazy digging of the two, soon a sloping tunnel more than 10 feet long appeared in the cave. Friendling, you continue to dig down in front, I will block the tunnel in the back, and I will take over later. After the two went down to the tunnel, Wei Hong immediately made a decision. Dingzu nodded without saying anything, and immediately continued to dig deep down in front. Wei Hong used the sand fossilization technique to directly block the hole on the ground. Before that, he specially arranged a Four Symbols Formation in the cave to protect the location of their tunnel entrance, and then blocked it all the way down after leaving a few finger-sized air holes on the ground. As for the extra sand, he put them all into the empty storage bag. In this way, they don't have to worry about safety even if they go dozens of feet underground. As for daily necessities, they prepared several months' worth in advance, enough for the two of them to survive for more than half a year, which was also something Wei Hong had considered a long time ago. After using the sand fossilization technique to block a section of the tunnel, Wei Hong moved Dingzu to the back, and then he continued to dig down. After going more than 10 feet underground, Wei Hong changed the digging direction to parallel forward instead of a continuing downward. Swish! The flying sword in his hand was extremely sharp, and all the sand and stones on the ground were quickly cut and dug down like tofu. Soon, a square space of about 3 meters wide and 2 meters high was dug out by Wei Hong, and he stopped temporarily. Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief, then turned to Dingzu and said, "Friendling, take a rest first, it should be fine for the time being." Chapter 549 There is only death and no life. Dingzu let out a long sigh and sat down on the ground without caring about her image. In the past 3 days, She escaped from the market and ran through the mountains and forests. She had to be vigilant against strange attacks and be careful to guard against other monks. In the end, she had to face an extremely desperate dilemma. If Wei Hong had not found a ray of hope, they might have disappeared long ago. Therefore, Dingzhu was exhausted both physically and mentally at this moment. After her mind suddenly relaxed, she could not muster any strength. On the other hand, although Wei Hong stopped digging, he still had a solemn face and did not mean to relax at all. From time to time, he would stick to the wall to listen to the movement outside. Neither of them spoke, but rested quietly. After more than half an hour, Wei Hong looked up at Dingzhu and said, "Friend Ding, we are temporarily safe now. The strange fog cannot spread. What do you think next?" To be honest, Wei Hong did not expect this situation, but it was the only chance he could think of in the desperate situation. If it were not for the existence of this cave, they might not be able to get rid of the strangeness and dig a tunnel out. As for now, Wei Hong thought it should be safe. There is a 4 symbols formation guard in the entrance of the cave, blocking the strange fog from spreading in. There is also a 4 symbols formation above the entrance of the tunnel deep in the cave. He believes that as long as no one destroys these 2 formations, their position will never be exposed. Moreover, the first half of the tunnel has been blocked by him, and the strange fog cannot spread down, so it is naturally safe. As for how to go next, Wei Hong actually has ideas and plans in his mind, but he wants to listen to Dingzhu's suggestions to see if she has better ideas. However, Dingzhu shook her head slightly and said, "I don't know. I'll just follow the arrangements of fellow Taoist Wei. As long as we can escape, I'll do whatever fellow Taoist Wei wants me to do." Wei Hong frowned slightly, but immediately relaxed his brows, then nodded and said, "In that case, fellow Taoist Ding, just sit in meditation for a while and try to recover your spiritual power first." Since Dingzhu had no better ideas, he would naturally follow the original plan. In fact, when digging the tunnel, Wei Hong figured it out. Since the strange fog could not affect the underground and could not spread, their only chance of survival was not to stay underground and wait for death, but to dig a tunnel that could lead to the outside of the strange fog. Leaving the strange domain from underground was the correct escape route. After all, they could hide underground, so why couldn't they dig a tunnel to escape the strange domain? If they stayed here all the time, not to mention whether the strange fog could dissipate, their living supplies alone would not last too long. If the strange fog did not dissipate, or even continue to spread and expand, then they would be trapped here sooner or later. Therefore, the best way at the moment is to dig a tunnel to escape, which is also the only escape route. Any other method is not suitable for them. With their current cultivation and the extremely sharp flying swords in their hands, it is naturally not a problem to dig a tunnel leading to the outside of the strange domain. The living supplies in their hands are enough to support them until they leave the strange domain. Moreover, Wei Hong observed when the strange fog faded. They were not far from the edge of the strange domain before. At most, it was a few miles away, and it would definitely not exceed 10 miles. In this way, they only need to choose the right direction and dig straight forward. Of course, this plan does not need to be explained to Dingzhu now. After they have rested enough and recovered their spiritual power, they can tell her about this plan in detail. After careful consideration, Wei Hong also sat cross-legged on the ground. He and Dingzhu each meditated, trying to recover all the consumed spiritual power as soon as possible. As for the other cultivators outside, they were not within Wei Hong's consideration at all. If there were no special means, or if the Qingyuan sect did not help, those casual cultivators in the market would basically die, and they would never be able to escape from the strange domain. Even if they had hundreds or thousands of evil-killing talismans like Wei Hong, they could only resist for a while, but could not really escape, because the strange creatures outside were simply endless, and the fate was doomed from the moment they were trapped. Now he needed to consider how to escape, and he could not care about others. Half a day later, Wei Hong and Dingzhu opened their eyes at the same time. "Fellow Taoist Ding, how was your rest?" Wei Hong asked with concern. Dingzhu's face looked much better, and she nodded and said, "My spiritual power has been fully restored." "Fellow Taoist Wei, what should we do next?" "Eat something first, and talk while eating." Wei Hong took out some dry food and gave a portion to Dingzhu. Before they set out, they not only prepared a lot of things, but also made some monster meat into jerky, which came in handy at this time. While eating the dried meat, Wei Hong said to Dingzhu, "Fellow Taoist Ding, you know the current situation. There are many murderous intentions on the ground. We absolutely cannot go back. Going back means death. What we should do now is to find a way to leave the range of the strange domain, and then we can return to the ground. I have thought about it. If we want to escape the range of the strange domain, we only have one way to go now, that is to dig a tunnel to leave. I believe you also saw when the fog became lighter before. We are not far from the edge of the strange fog. As long as we keep digging, we should be able to dig a tunnel to leave the range of the strange domain. It doesn't matter if it's farther away. Our supplies are enough to support us for half a year, and digging a tunnel should not take half a year. Fellow Taoisting, what do you think? Wei Hong told Lingzhu all his ideas and plans without hiding anything. The reason for this is that he actually wanted to use the treasure-hunting rat in Dingzhu's hand to guide them. After all, the treasure-hunting rat Bai Ling is gifted and can find a glimmer of life in the dark. Now that it can be used in this situation, Wei Hong naturally cannot not use it. After listening to this, Dingzhu paused for a moment, then nodded and agreed, "Okay, I'll listen to you, Brother Wei. I have no objection." Since they couldn't return to the surface now, they had no choice but to dig a tunnel. Dingzhu had thought this through clearly, so she naturally wouldn't object. "Okay, as long as Brother Ding agrees." Wei Hong nodded, and then proposed, "Bai Ling, Brother Ding's pet, will help us guide us, so that we can save our efforts and dig a tunnel to the outside of the strange domain as soon as possible." "No problem, as long as Bai Ling can be used." Dingzhu agreed immediately. There was no reason to refuse such a thing. Chapter 550, Escape from the Dead, Jiangdu City. In the tunnel, Wei Hong held the flying sword and waved it forward again and again, cutting off large pieces of soil and gravel directly, and then put all the soil and gravel into the storage bag. Of course, even if Wei Hong had more storage bags, it was impossible to fill all the soil and gravel, so he would pour the soil in the storage bag to the back every once in a while, completely blocking the back section of the tunnel. After digging for a while, Wei Hong stopped, and then let Lingzhu continue digging, and he rested at the back. The two of them took turns digging and resting. On Dingzhu's shoulder stood the treasure-hunting mouse Bai Ling, who was responsible for guiding the direction. Wei Hong and his team dug all the way in the direction guided by Bai Ling, sometimes turning left, sometimes turning right. In short, it was not a straight line, which was somewhat different from what Wei Hong had imagined at the beginning. Fortunately, they were not ordinary people, and digging the tunnel did not consume much spiritual energy. Even though Dingzhu was a woman and was physically weak, the speed of digging the tunnel was not very fast. When they were tired, they rested. When they were hungry, they ate dried meat, or made a fire to cook a meal of spiritual rice, and stewed a pot of monster meat. It was monotonous but not dangerous. Moreover, Wei Hong and Dingzhu knew that they were working hard for their own lives, so they gritted their teeth and persevered. 2 months later, Wei Hong and his team dug for 2 months, and the length of the tunnel they dug was 13 or 14 miles. This was much longer than the originally expected distance, mainly because the direction indicated by the treasure-hunting mouse Bai Ling was not a straight line, so they could only dig all the way in the direction indicated by Bai Ling, and then they dug for 2 months. On this day, Wei Hong was still holding the flying sword and digging the tunnel forward. At this time, Bai Ling, who had been on Dingzhu's shoulder, suddenly started to squeak and then jumped off Dingzhu's shoulder. She came to Wei Hong and kept squeaking at him. At the same time, she stood up like a human, with her 2 short front paws pointing upwards. "Huh? What's wrong?" Wei Hong was confused for a moment and did not immediately understand what the treasure-hunting rat meant. Dingzhu, on the other hand, reacted immediately and shouted in surprise, "What? You said that we can reach a safe area by digging upwards? Bai Ling, are you sure?" When Wei Hong heard this, he was overjoyed. The treasure-hunting mouse Bai Ling squeaked a few more times, and Dingzhu finally confirmed it this time. She immediately turned to Wei Hong and smiled. "Friend Wei, Bai Ling said that the area above our heads is already safe, and we can return to the ground." "Haha, good." Wei Hong was overjoyed and immediately said excitedly, "It's worth our hard work of digging for 2 months. We finally escaped from the strange domain. Friendling, you take Bai Ling to guard behind and pay attention to let it listen to whether there is any danger on the ground. I will continue to dig." After saying that, Wei Hong picked up the flying sword and began to dig diagonally upward. Swish! With hope, Wei Hong was full of energy and soon dug out a diagonal upward tunnel of more than 10 feet long. It was not until he felt that he had almost reached the ground that Wei Hong stopped and turned to look at Dingzhu. "Friendling, how is it?" Dingzu looked at Bai Ling, and after confirming, she said to Wei Hong, Bai Ling didn't notice the danger, it should be fine. Okay, you step back. Wei Hong nodded. He held a few talismans in his left hand and dug quickly with a flying sword in his right hand. Soon, the tip of the sword pierced through the ground, and then Wei Hong quickly dug a square tunnel entrance on the ground. He did not drill out immediately, but carefully sensed it, and found that there was no danger, so he kicked his feet and rushed out of the tunnel entrance. Dingzu was waiting nervously and expectantly below, and soon heard Wei Hong's voice, "Friend Ding, come up." Dingzu's expression suddenly relaxed, and a look of joy appeared on his face. He immediately drilled out of the tunnel entrance with Bai Ling and returned to the ground. After returning to the ground, the first thing Dingzu did was to take 2 deep breaths of fresh air, with a look of intoxication and enjoyment on his face, and the whole person completely relaxed. At this moment, Wei Hong was observing the situation around him. Dingzu only then noticed that their location was no longer in the forest, but in a plain area, only 3 or 4 miles away from the forest. The surroundings were empty and there was no one. "Dao Wei, where is this?" Dingzu asked Wei Hong subconsciously. Wei Hong observed for a while before answering, "This place is not far from the forest. I don't know the exact location for the time being, but what is certain is that we have indeed escaped from the strange domain." He pointed with his hand, and Dingzu looked in the direction he pointed, and immediately saw the familiar fog not far away, but the strange fog did not spread towards them. "Huh? We finally escaped. We finally survived." Looking at the strange fog not far away, Dingzu breathed a sigh of relief. Then a look of great joy appeared on her face, and the whole person seemed extremely happy. And Wei Hong couldn't help laughing and said, "Haha, not bad, we finally survived, it's not easy, ha ha ha." Anyway, they all managed to save their lives. The process of escaping from the strange domain is indeed not easy, but the result is finally good. Facing a natural disaster like the strange fog, they are lucky to be able to save their lives. There is no need to say more about the rest. With their identities, they can just find another place to continue practicing. At this time, Dingzu suddenly asked, "I don't know what happened to the others. I don't know if the people from Qinghai sect escaped. It's useless to think too much." Wei Hong glanced at Dingzu, and then said, 2 months have passed. No matter what, at least we saved our lives. As for the people from Qinghai sect and those scattered cultivators in the market, the situation should not be very good. If we want to know their fate, we must ask the nearby cultivators. Fellow Taoisting, I wonder where you are going next? Or what do you think? Facing Wei Hong's inquiry, Dingzu thought for a while and said, "Fellow Taoist Wei, why don't we find a mortal town first, determine our location, and then inquire about the situation of Qinghai sect, and finally decide whether to stay or go? Okay, Qinghai Mountain Market is gone, and we must find a new place to practice. It's also good to inquire first. Let's do as fellow Taoisting said." Wei Hong thought for a moment and agreed with Dingzu's suggestion. So the 2 of them hurriedly left this place and ran all the way towards the plain. Half a day later, they finally came to the outside of Immortal Town, and it was a huge city called Jiangdu City. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.